Good evening. Hello, Alex. Hello, Ghost. Hello, Mina. Mina. Hello, hope you're doing well. I'm just going to do my whole, ritual of, hey, I am live on YouTube right now, covering. Hold on. You could kiss 100 boys in bars. Shoot another. I don't know how the song goes. It was nice to see you guys with iDubbbz. It was nice to do that yesterday. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad we raised. Thank you for everyone who donated and supported. We raised a really good amount of money for, a small podcast that's just started. It's impressive with what you can do, and it's like, okay, if you do that, as I kind of want to move forward with to do fundraising stuff, it may not always be with Isaac, but trying to do one at least once a month to raise money for, whatever it is. I think probably as well next time we'd probably raise money for things like the Samir project and stuff. But yeah, it was really good, and I'm glad we were able to do so much. And thank you all the mods yesterday. I've just started typing, and because my mind's really out there, I've just started typing join the Epstein, join the Discord. Okay, right. Hold on. Right, there we go. I'm just gonna put out a video saying
any wrongdoing, even though the files reveal that Mandelson may.
I'm just gonna say I'm live on just sorry. You know what I'm like. I'm just getting to it. This is gonna be a one and done kind of masterpiece. You're about to witness gold being made. Hello everyone, I am no, you're not, it's not one of them. Hello everyone, I am live on YouTube covering bad Epstein takes, discussing whether he was a Russian spy, the Iran-US nuclear negotiations, and so much more. So if you want to come check it out, link is here if you're seeing this on Instagram, and it's in my bio if you're seeing it on TikTok. Get in. I'm really concerned that I have a little bit of chocolate around my mouth, but I don't think I did. I think it's just hyper paranoia. There's also some drop site drama that I've been I haven't seen fully yet, so we'll look into it. Now that's how you get the FBI to invade our spaces, calling it that, laughing my ass off. Wild. Join the Jeffy Epi Discord. Yeah. The Jeffy, seemingly today some people would set up a Jeffrey Epstein appreciation Discord if they got the fucking chance. Nick Fuentes, fucking Ben. Have any of you seen the Joe Rogan take on it? I can't wait to watch. We're going to do some bad Epstein takes because there are some crazy ones out there. And there's one that's a lot of them just rely on the I don't know. A lot of them rely on the fact is that only doing things to kids is bad. And it's hey, no, this is way bigger than just kids. And kids is obviously bad, but so much bigger. Have any of you seen do any of you get this guy who lives in the UK and he's an Orthodox Jewish guy, and they start off with some kind of semi, hate crime sort of thing, and then it goes on to being about a furniture shop. I'm watching one right now where he's advertising furniture. It's an interesting sort of business model, I do have to say. Fair play to the guy, doing what he loves. But yeah, nice sweater choice. Thank you. I got tea on it a second ago, which is kind of winding me up, but we move. Okay, right. Let's put this on. We're going to try Frank, even though it's a terrible guess to start off with. That is an awful guess. Oh. Pouts. Actually, no, I'm going to try Spout. Oh! Oh my god, is it slops? Acid ambience. Hello. A whole Russian spy shit is so stupid. Yeah, I know. I haven't seen anything from the files that convinces me, and I think that there are some good arguments to be made as to why that doesn't seem true. Although, it wouldn't surprise me if he was working with, you know, some Russian elites for his sex trafficking business and shit, you know. Well, I think he definitely was, but I think they're just overblowing that because it means that they don't have to talk about, Israel and stuff. Nice guess, Trevor. Trevor. But it ends in P. Scoop? Oh, I think it's Scoop. Oh. Shoop? I mean, I only know it from the song. It probably is more likely to be Swoop, isn't it? Soup, Spoop, Syoop, Siop. No, it's going to be Swoop. Well done. Nice guess, Jackstar. Well done, bro. You got me. You got the Wordle. Well done. Well done. I hope you're proud of yourself. And then we'll quickly do connections. American flag. Things that can be interchanged with the Nazi. Stoop is actually the only other one it could have been, I think. I don't think shoop is actually a word. I just know it from that song. I wanna shoot by Salt and Pepper. That's in, I know it's in Deadpool 1. I think I remember that's where I heard it. I think for the first time. Chowboy, I don't know what that means. Hold on, I need to edit my fucking Instagram bio. My fucking L. One that you call me. Well, you didn't wake up this morning because you didn't go to bed. You were watching the whites of your eyes turn. Ah, God, bad app. Oh no, I did it right. Hello everyone, I am live on YouTube covering bad Epstein takes, discussing whether he was a Russian spy, the Iran-US nuclear negotiations, and so much more. So if you want to come check... Okay, right. Sorry. Right, American flag. Yeah, things I tread on. Maybe it is apple pie baseball, but I don't know. You might be right. Eagle, apple pie baseball. Things are so lapis lazuli. The shit I love to mine in Minecraft. Wow, that was actually correct. Nice. Butt, head, butt. Head, head, bump, knock, ram, butt. Bump heads, knock heads, ram heads. Yeah, collide with. Oh. American flag, but unfortunately that wasn't right. Oh, Bruce, Spike, Christopher and Ang. Lee? Yeah. Jeans, lapis lazuli, ocean, sky. As I said, the shit I'd be making in Minecraft. This is the kind of stuff I'd be making in Minecraft. Jeans. I'd be learning how to craft jeans. It wasn't things I'd be making in Minecraft. I should have made Isaac play this yesterday, but he wouldn't have understood it because he's not a gamer. Okay, right. So, before we get into the actual news, for the first time in a little while, I actually have quite a lot of memes sorted out.
Officer who finally gets to arrest Trump. What one sentence do you say as you put on the handcuffs?
What the fuck? Wait, hold on. Hold on. Wait, why can't I hear any? Oh my god, my headphones are unplugged. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, you've probably just been listening to me twice.
Thought we knew.
Yeah, right. Sorry. I wanted to show you, first of all, I wanted to show you this. So apparently there's allegedly a poll saying that Donald Trump is someone who governs on the far right, center left, far left. Surely this can't be true. That there's 11% of these people polled by Polling USA who think that Trump is far left, but
Finally gets to
here's a brilliant clip.
officer who finally gets to arrest Trump. What one sentence do you say as you put on the handcuffs?
This is for what you've done to the white race.
I guess maybe I shouldn't underestimate the American people. They're very profound. They have thoughts that I can't even imagine. We also have some incredible stuff. What's your bad joke? What's your bad joke? By the way, we also have some incredible things happening in the UK Parliament. Just listen to this.
The situation stinks. Peter Mandelson maintained a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein after he had been convicted. This wasn't before anyone knew about his grotesque crimes, not when it was being whispered about, but after his conviction, when the world knew exactly who and what Jeffrey Epstein was. Yet before his appointment as ambassador to the United States, senior Labour MPs went on television and social media to praise him, members sitting opposite today. They knew the facts, because by that point, it was already public knowledge that Mandelson had stayed in Epstein's New York home while Epstein was serving time as a convicted paedophile. When asked about this last September, the Prime Minister told this House he had full confidence in Peter Mandelson, despite knowing about his close relationship with Epstein. That's right, the leader of the Labour Party and the Prime Minister had full confidence in a man that was besties with a convicted nonce. What a...
It is actually incredible. That is the first time that those words have ever been uttered in Parliament. That is the first time they've ever been a besties with a convicted nonce. A priest and imam, a rabbit, walk into a blood donor clinic. The nurse asks them their blood types. The priest says, I'm a type B. I'm a type A. The imam says, I'm a type B. The rabbit says, I'm a typo. Jesus Christ. Incredible. Great work there.
Disgrace. And what we are witnessing is not accountability, it is the Westminster Club protecting its own. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not just about this Labour government. Large sections of the media also play their part. Mandelson didn't simply drift back into public life, he was rehabilitated, rebranded, presented as respectable. He was welcomed on the BBC's flagship programme as a wiser elder statesman, given differential treatment by The Spectator, The Guardian and The Sunday Times. These are the same outlets that lecture relentlessly about standards and morality when it is a trade unionist, a protester, a working class person who puts a foot wrong. But when it's one of their own, the tone changes. Suddenly it's about experience, pragmatism, it's about getting things done. This
No, nonce means pedophile, but also it kind of does just mean idiot, you know, like when people say, oh, you're a nonce, like, you know, you don't always mean in the context of that person specifically being a pedophile, but yeah.
This is how power protects itself.
Zara seemed like one of the coolest politicians over there. Yeah, I mean, she was in the Labour Party for a bit long for my liking, like, you know, during the Gaza genocide, but she is pretty based. And yeah, Graham Linehan is in Congress. Let's have a listen to what he has to say. Graham Linehan is like this he's this transphobic guy who made some pretty good comedies a long time ago, but he's also just an insane looking person. His head is insane looking, his face is insane looking. It's really crooked, he's bizarre.
My name is Graham Linehan. I spent 30 years writing comedy for British television. It was a career I loved, but it ended when I began noticing that women were losing their livelihoods.
By the way, his whole bit is basically just saying, oh, women are being threatened by trans people. That's his whole bit, and he purports and uses it to claim he's a defender. Here's something that he tweeted out recently. Renee Good is the epitome of the modern-day liberal white woman. Sorry, he retweeted this. 37 years old, lost custody of her two older children, fled to Canada after Trump won in 24, career as a poet. I mean, this guy's career currently is literally like being transphobic on the internet, so, you know, I'd rather pick being a poet than that. Moved to Minneapolis from Canada to fight for the rights of illegal aliens. Enrolled the only child she has custody of in Southside Family Charter School, whose mission it is to put social justice first and prioritize involving kids in political and so blah, 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 blah. Their involvement lost her life while obstructing ICE. So basically just blaming her. If we want to be a serious country with law and order, anything short of outright abolishment of the 19th Amendment would be a grave half measure. This is the face of chaos, instability, dangerous empathy for criminals, and feckless disregard for law. By the way, yeah, he's the most divorced person ever. I mean, Elon Musk is pretty up there. Elon Musk claimed that he lost his child's life to the woke mind virus, which is insane. But this guy claims that the trans movement took away his kids. And yeah, he doesn't, like, it's obvious, it's very obvious that he does not think that women should have the right, that he does not care about women's rights if he's typing this kind of shit out. Like, he doesn't care about anything. He's just a repugnant individual who realized being transphobic is a great grift.
Their social circles, and even their freedom for defending rights won over 100 years ago by the suffragette movement. I looked into what these women were saying and could find...
By the way, part of me wants to sit there and be like, oh, the suffragettes, they wouldn't accept someone like Graham Linehan. But a key figure in the suffragette movement had like a husband who was I can't remember her name, but she had a husband that was like a key practitioner of colonialism in Algeria. He was like a massive proponent, I believe, of killing lots of Algerians. So, yeah, I mean, some suffragettes may have accepted this guy. They may have loved him.
Nothing wrong with any...
Yeah, he's also become massively pro-Israel.
...of it. They believed, as I do, that single-sex spaces are essential for women's privacy, dignity, and safety. They believe that children should not undergo experimental medical treatment that ravages their health and shortens their lives. They believe that women have a right to fair sport. These were not extreme positions, but for holding them, I became the target of a series of harassment campaigns that cost me my career, my marriage, and eventually drove me from my homeland. For a decade, the British police have harassed me for expressing views that the majority of the...
By the way, he's just a deranged piece of shit. Like, he's just someone who has no life outside of being transphobic on the internet. Like, I'm sorry. And he's also a mega Zionist.
...public share. In 10 years, not one person, not the police who arrested me, not the colleagues who condemned me, not the friends who turned away, has told any of us what we did wrong. Our accusers do not deal in arguments.
It's also, like, I want to show you how funny this guy is. So he's here condemning Jeremy Corbyn for having some kind of thing with Noam Chomsky, right? And, whatever. Like, like Chomsky's relationship with Epstein reaches nowhere near the levels of depravity that, say, someone like Peter Mandelson's did, for example. And that's not a defense of I was about to call him Chomnomsky, but Noam Chomsky at all. Like, I'm not defending him. But then watch this. He's literally replying to Elon Musk. Paul Murphy, anyone raising a baby of trans is guilty of extreme child abuse. Paul Murphy, we don't want to limit our baby by saying you're a boy or you're a girl. Let them decide. Brilliant. This is the kind of stuff he's doing. He's literally replying to someone who's in the Epstein files, who loved Jeffrey Epstein, clearly, and wanted to be around Jeffrey Epstein, who Jeffrey Epstein didn't even like.
No one is able to point to the flaws in our analysis. We have simply been punished for objecting to fashionable yet incoherent orthodoxies. When I could no longer make a living writing comedy, I returned to journalism, which was my first profession. On my Substack, I interviewed cancelled women on my YouTube channel covering stories the BBC refused to touch. On my Substack, my colleague published a weekly roundup of outrages. We called it the War on Women. We were never at a loss for stories. This committee is...
By the way, this guy, I also want to show you. Twitter has been created, and it always has been, this echo chamber of just being like some kind of bizarre, perverse extremist, where you will get like a huge amount of likes and stuff by being as extreme. But like, this guy isn't likable. Like, look at his YouTube is doing horribly for someone. What's this? Is he playing Rainbow Six Siege? Bro, why don't you just reload? Like, why are you acting like this is a good clip? This is not cool. Just reload.
Changing mags.
Op 4, last stop standing.
You can tell that this guy's a boomer. I bet his like little ogre hands are just like mashing the controllers on Siege. He's just like, wow, I'm doing so well. Actually, he's not. He's Irish. So he's like, oh, I'm doing so well. The anti-trans movement, the TERF movement is gonna love this. That's not a very good. That's not like his Irish accent, but yeah. I never got into this game. I also have had enough of it. Is this actually him playing Rainbow Six Siege?
It's here to discuss threats to free speech in Europe, but I briefly want to touch on the forms of quiet censorship that don't require state suppression.
It's also really funny going and doing this in front of the UK government when you're like a massive pro-Israel shill. Sorry, the US government, when you're a massive pro-Israel shill, and the people actually being silenced are, you know, the like left-wing journalists. Like right-wing journalists can be morons and they'll be welcomed into the White House.
For the state has learned to let others do its work. When employers fire workers for protected speech, when banks close accounts, when publishers drop authors, when platforms suspend users, the government's hands stay clean. The censorship happens. The state didn't do it. In Britain, we have discovered that you can have formal free speech and no free speech at all. I want everyone to understand that gender ideology and free speech cannot coexist. You can hear the lie in the very language. Trans woman meaning man, trans man meaning woman, trans healthcare meaning the opposite of healthcare, trans rights meaning men's demands.
I also just don't get the obsession with trans people. I understand where it comes from and stuff, but like simultaneously, I just don't get why you dedicate your entire being to this. It's very obvious that this is not a major threat that women are facing in society. And if you really pick this as your hill to die on, it's just pathetic and odious.
An ideology that tells lesbians they are bigoted for not accepting male partners is not progressive, it is homophobic.
Also someone, yeah, of course, like someone who tells a lesbian, okay, you have to date trans people. It's their choice. It's a personal choice. It's up to people. If they meet someone they love, whatever, it's your choice.
And I will bring this home to Washington for a second. Right now, a man named Hobby Bingham, who calls himself Princess Zoe Andromeda Love, is a registered sex offender in this country. He raped a 12-year-old girl. He was transferred to the Washington Correction Center.
I've had enough of listening to his fucking drivel. But he's just talking about... he lives in, like, America, and he's just paid to do this kind of crap. It's a yearning for what Linehan could never be. It's a yearning for a miserable man who lost his wife, who has nothing going for him, who hasn't been able to make good comedy for a very long time, because Ricky Gervais is a piece of shit, and he's actually not very good at making comedy these days, in my opinion. But simultaneously, Ricky Gervais still has a pretty big career because he can still make comedy that appeals to at least some people, whereas Graham Linehan, I don't even know what the last thing Graham Linehan made was. It's also amazing that, by the way, one of Ethan Klein's new podcast show hosts gets up to this. He wrote a TV show called Motherland, which I've not heard of. I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. That was the last thing he really did. He did make some good TV, like IT Crowd's all right. It's not something that I go back to and I think, oh, I really want to watch that. But yeah, and I don't know about Black Books. I've not seen Black Books, but people like that. The Fast Show, never seen. He's in Alan Partridge as well. Coogan's Run. What the fuck is Coogan's Run? A short series portraying 6 different people who live in a town called Ottle, all played by Steve Coogan. Oh, that sounds alright. I might watch that. I enjoyed the IT Crowd. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It's just not something I run back to and think, wow, that was like the best thing I ever saw. Okay, right. We're going to get into some of the bad takes on Epstein. There is an incredible amount of bad takes on Epstein. I've seen an absolutely amazing take here from, which I'm sure some of you have seen by now, from Mike Benz and Joe Rogan. I don't know who Mike Benz is. I feel like I should probably preface this. Is he someone I should be aware of? Did he make Mercedes-Benz and then change his name? I don't know who he is. Michael Benz. I'm just having a look into who he is. Who is this guy? He's a former state diplomat. No fucking way. Jesus Christ. Oh, wait. It says in the description. So he's the executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online and a former US State Department. Who did he work under? What's the Foundation for Freedom Online as well? So it's just... Oh, my God. His organization is seemingly working to defend that this is apparently something free, that you need to be defending X. And by the way, X has absolutely nothing to do with any of this stuff at all. Nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with online freedom. Mike Benz, what is it? Mike Benz, State Department. Who did he work under? Michael A. Benz. He was in the Bureau... He was for International Communications and Information. Right, let's hear his Epstein takes. I'm sure it's great.
I don't think that the majority or anything close to it of the women were technically... I think it was largely
young,
very young, barely legal, so to speak. But and I know that there were cases of underage, but I think
most of it was just
very, very young, but not like
20-year-old
not
girls,
like 13
18-year-old girls.
type thing. And then
incredible to be doing Epstein did nothing wrong. Also, once again, as the same with Ethan Klein, I don't think Joe Rogan actually does any work these days. I think he sits around and goes to the gym and pumps himself full of beef dripping or whatever the hell is going into that man, and he pops up on his podcast with something pre-prepared for him, because if he bothered to just look into the Epstein files, you can literally find days where Epstein is talking about trafficking women. I don't give a shit if they're of legal age. This guy was a fucking sex trafficker, picking up women, speaking about them in degrading ways, working with other sex traffickers. It is no better. These people knew what he was, right? These people knew what he was. And so acting as if, he just threw these wild, epic parties is insane.
Yeah, remember, because this is an international enterprise, and many of the clients are in countries that don't necessarily have the same norms about that that we do. You can very easily see someone getting involved in that just because girls juice deals, and so I don't.
What is this? What's he talking about here? Girls juice deals. Allegedly,
it is utterly ridiculous.
Allegedly, Ethan and Death Noodles will do a debate. Ethan will do anything but debate anyone who knows anything about anything. He's, by the way, trying to rehabilitate his image once again, because his audience... By the way, this is something he's doing. His audience got mad at him because he wasn't talking about ICE, so now he's gone on a real drive about ICE, and he's working it in with this, vote Kamala stuff, and so he can use it to try and dunk on Hassan and appear left-wing. This is how Ethan operates. You need to realize that. He's trying to win his audience back. That's why he's on Piers Morgan. I was going to react to that, but apparently it is so boring, and all he does is just look over so he can find, AB furiously typing into ChatGPT, Ethan, check this one out. Gemini has given us a good answer, Ethan. Gemini has given us a good answer, so you can make yourself look left-wing by talking to the world's biggest idiot, Benny Johnson. Pfft.
Think that Epstein, I've not seen evidence, and in my view, you don't need any of that to understand.
By the way, this guy looks like a fucking bird or something. He's crazy looking.
And the core part of the Epstein story that has relevance to your life today in terms of your own government and the workings of power and corporate finance and the like. But I do think that girls juice deals, and the fact that he had the coolest parties on a private island with the hottest girls is
also
something
brought
that
in
makes...
a lot of intellectuals, stimulating conversation.
Reading through Epstein's things, I am increasingly not convinced by this. I'm sure between Chomsky and Ehud Barak, it may have been interesting to hear what they were saying. However, What I will say is that most of the times Jeffrey Epstein talked, it was the most boring thing in the world. Loads of people were there because they were interested in just meeting women. That's it. And calling these the coolest parties is so despicable. I don't know why, as this like epic sort of podcast conspiracy theorist guy, all of a sudden you're deciding to defend Epstein. It's pretty crazy to me, and make out as if he just had wild parties.
And scientists, all these very interesting people. So that was part of the thing, right? That was the draw.
Try hosting a cool party as a guy with a bad ratio, so to speak.
Sausage party.
With a sausage party. And
bro, these people are like, Joe Rogan must be pushing 50. In fact, is Joe Rogan over 50? Joe Rogan's pushing 60 and he's talking about sausage parties.
When you develop a reputation for having attractive women at the parties you host, you become
By the way, there's this sort of case in the Epstein files that I can't show because it's really graphic, and it's Epstein coaching this girl, and he keeps talking about about an adult film star called Sasha Grey and all of this kind of stuff. He keeps advising this girl of how she should better please high power businessmen in, I think, Austria, because there are a couple of discussions about it. And he's given her advice about, like, how to do different things and all of this stuff. And so to me, it's like, I don't know. Girls juice deals, booth babes mentality. People engage way more when hot girls are around. Yeah, I guess that's exactly what you mean. I just think that, like, to be honest, I think that there's a big difference between that and then sex traffic women, you know, and kind of booth babes is also kind of problematic and playing into problematic things amongst men. But what I will say is certainly a lot better than trafficked women brought over from Russia by scouts and trained by Jeffrey Epstein how to work from him. I'm telling you, Jeffrey... Oh, I think Jeffrey Epstein would have been on this. I reckon Bannon could have got him on. Also, King Alex, thanks for the $5 and the information.
You become an important person to know in the network.
Oh. Sorry, didn't mean to put whatever the hell that is on. But yeah, like, I don't know, Joe Rogan is someone who apparently prides himself on being anti-establishment, and he's literally just sat across from an establishment figure. Like, look at this guy's account. Look at this. Mr. Beast should change his name to Mr. Sensitive. The insane CIA history of how the National Endowment for Democracy is structured. This guy is the key to the Fedsurrection. Riots, revolution, and a world on fire this week. Oh, God. Just like, having this guy on to talk about how Epstein actually just threw epic parties is amazing.
I want to bring in now.
I want to hear
one guy who knows more about this story than anybody else out there. He's the executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. Former State Department employee Mike Benz is back.
By the way, this guy is crazy looking. Both him and Joe Rogan have the kind of physiognomy that is only possible in America. They do not make a head like this in Europe. That you cannot have a head like this. By the way, as well, I think, bro, it's time to let the haircut go. Your hairline is here. What is going on with this? And yeah, I think also using the term juicing the deal when talking about a fucking convicted pedophile is insane.
Back with us. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Grant.
All right, what did you make of this latest release, Mike?
Well, they dropped a couple hours ago, and there's about 3.5 million pages. So, interestingly, there's a debate about whether enough pages have been disclosed today, because there's about almost 6 million pages that are in the sum total universe of what the FBI said that it had. And there's a question that the left is asking about whether the 2.5 million pages that are not evidently released.
Oh, this guy's a terrible speaker as well.
If they contain the real damaging stuff, this is the Epstein hot potato. Obviously, there's enough to chew on just in what we've seen. There's no way to go over that volume in just a...
Why are they just, like, flicking up photos of him?
business day. But
yeah, I know. Ezra, I don't. Is there another Ezra Klein one, or is it the one where he goes, "Here's where I'm at with the Epstein files"?
the fact is the left is obviously using some of the things, the emails about Howard Lutnick and Elon Musk and these.
Bro, I don't think the left is using this for anything. How the left specifically, excuse me. I think actually people are using this to be like, hey, it's pretty obvious that there is no left and right when it comes to the actual political elite. That Jeffrey Epstein rubbed shoulders and influenced everyone he could and wanted to build power in the way he wanted to. No, is Podesta to do with the Madeleine McCann stuff?
Allegations about Donald Trump that are made by unnamed informants, CHS as confidential human informants. Some of, for example, you have this kind of far left glomming on to an FBI.
Oh, this guy's fucking stupid. Glomming onto, it's globbing onto, you idiot. His nose is also his nose isn't so big. It's just really wide. It looks like it's been stretched out. It looks like, I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like a fucking stingray.
Confidential human source saying that Donald Trump is a pawn of Israel and that Alan Dershowitz was recruited by the Mossad. And, these are the sort of things that, regardless how you feel about the issue, the fact that an unnamed informant gives that opinion to the FBI does not make that an official FBI finding. In fact, some of the claims that are made against Trump in these documents are made through anonymous tip lines in 2018 while Donald Trump.
Isn't it funny that women didn't feel comfortable coming out against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein? Guys who were backed up by, this Alan Dershowitz guy who was one of the world's best lawyers and very good at getting anyone who couldn't entirely prove exactly what they had or using every legal loophole to get out of these people facing any legal consequences. Alan Dershowitz, for all of his horrifying faults and such, is, a pretty competent lawyer, surprisingly.
Was president, and the indictment of Jeffrey Epstein was underway in 2018, 2019. So some of the salacious insinuations about Trump sexually assaulting, I'll say, a underage girl, this is another thing that the left is kind of...
I like how the sort of tennis ball looking guy has just stood there shaking his head, and then the guy with this is unbelievable. The width of his nose, fair play. You could get a lot. You could do crazy things with a nose like that. That's all I'm saying.
Glommed onto could have been made through leftists. Could have been living in Australia.
Jesus Christ! This guy is such an incompetent speaker as well.
Simply wanted to drop a tip that could hurt the sitting U.S. president. So it's important that what you see that someone tells the FBI in a document here does not mean that it is a true thing and an FBI file proving it just because someone said it and it's in an FBI file.
Well, look, we learned that with the Steele dossier and the Russian collusion hoax, that just because it's in an FBI file doesn't make it true. And these anonymous sources, it's par for the course that they would file these types of allegations. What is it that you would like to see in the documents? Because you've been one of the few, Mike, that is focused on Epstein's foreign ties, CIA ties. You talked about Adnan Khashoggi and running guns. Do you think there may be anything, and I know it's only a few hours, you can't go through 3.5 million pages, anything that would lend credibility to the things you've been shedding light on?
Well, what I'd like to see are more details about Jeffrey Epstein's financial dealings. And it is hard for me to imagine that while Jeffrey Epstein was being prosecuted...
So you know all of this stuff, and then you just go, oh, okay, yeah, no, actually, he just had wild parties. Why are you defending him, bro?
Prosecuted in the U.S. Virgin...
Oh, wait, the reason he's defending him is because he's just a Republican establishment shill.
Islands for massive bank fraud. Had over $1 billion worth of assets. There was a whole calamity over fraud in the banking sphere that he was involved.
God, this guy is such a bad speaker as well. The amount of edits in this.
There was a massive settlement that had to be paid out. And the details of that financial audit are things that I think really need to be plugged in, because it's my personal opinion on the on the basis of having looked at this for many years, that Jeffrey Epstein was plugged in very early in his career, back when he was at Bear Stearns, which means J.P. Morgan, which acquired it in 2008, would hold his personnel record, was involved on deals that were geopolitically sensitive, involving the U.S., Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United Kingdom, with a little bit of France in there as well, and a couple other.
So this guy seemingly understands one of the, perhaps the more complex aspect of the Epstein files, but for some reason claims that the far left is using it to just take down Trump. And it's like, what are you talking about here? What is this?
Middle Eastern kind of Arab Sheikh type groups that were all participating in this early post-CIA reform soup called the Safari Club, which used at the time one of the what had grown to be one of the world's biggest banks, BCCI, that became embroiled in a giant 10-year scandal. That scandal was covered.
Okay, great. He's actually, you know what, on this, I'll say he's based, but I don't understand why he felt the need to defend Epstein and claim he was just having wild parties. Now, he's not the only person who's given us some Epstein amazing takes alongside Joe Rogan. We also have Ben Shapiro, in my understanding, giving some kind of take on the Epstein files. Where's his take on the Epstein files? Epstein. Hold on. Oh, wait, it must be on this. Ben Shapiro, the Grammys versus ICE. Hold on.
Now, why is any of this really important? Well, I mean, it is important because when you have all the cultural tastemakers who are all pushing the same politics, that is likely to seep out into the broader culture. And sometimes that can go viral and turn into...
But defend these... Yeah, exactly. I don't know why you would bring up the Safari Hunting Club and then just be like, oh, yeah. Actually, I think Epstein's fine.
A brain worm that sort of eats the American body politic. You saw this, for example, with the trans issue, pushed by every cultural arbiter in American society. And for solidly a decade, this was promoted as the way to decide whether a person was virtuous or not, whether they were willing to say that a boy could be a girl and a girl could be a boy. So it does make a difference when the entire cultural apparatus mobilizes behind a thing. But there's something else here that is worthy of note also, and that is celebrities. They have their own social circle, and that social circle tends to mirror itself. It, in fact, is a hallway of mirrors. You're not welcome in a lot of these social circles if you have a different politics. You don't go to the cool kid parties. The story of Hollywood in its most depraved form, writ small, would be the Diddy White parties. That is Hollywood in its most depraved form, written small. It's like a microcosm of what Hollywood is. It's the most extreme version of what's happening in that cultural milieu. And I think that is probably the best way to see the Jeffrey Epstein story as well. So, a lot of people are looking for the connection between the Jeffrey Epstein story, the saga, the details that are now coming out, and what that means about, quote unquote, who runs our world. Now, there are a lot of very powerful people whose names have been mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. People who are hanging out, hobnobbing with Jeffrey Epstein. People who are asking dating advice, like Lauren Summers, former president of Harvard. Or people who are apparently soliciting visits to Epstein parties, or whom Epstein was soliciting to go to his parties, including people like Elon Musk. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein was friendly with Bill Clinton. There was a time early on in his life, earlier, when he was friendly with Donald Trump.
Once again, I love how people are like, I love how his argument is, you're looking for connections. Bro, you don't have to look very hard. You've mentioned the issue there. He was friends with a lot of powerful people, including people who made British politics, such as Peter Mandelson, one of the most influential people in British politics, right?
All of that is true. Now, the leap that some people are making is that this means that Epstein was manipulating all of these powerful people through blackmail with regard to sex. That is not in evidence. If that turns out to be in evidence, then we will happily report on it. That is not what so far has come out. And the reason I'm making this distinction is because it is, in fact, a deeply important thing that some of the most powerful people in our society act in morally depraved ways, godless, virtue-free ways, hanging out with some of the worst people in our society, people they know to be trafficking in women who are very...
It's also really funny that he obviously had like a very, very, very long-term relationship with Candace Owens, someone who goes against all of his values and thoughts.
Very, very young. if not in minors. When it comes to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, what was criminally indicted was the trafficking of underage girls for Epstein's own use. There have yet to be legally verifiable allegations that girls who are underage were trafficked to people who are not Jeffrey Epstein or...
Yeah, I mean, just look through the fucking files, mate. It's kind of insane that there's just this total unwillingness. But I guess that's what Ben Shapiro relies on. I mean, I think most of these views are fake. This video has 3,000 likes and 500,000 views. That feels a little bit odd.
By Ghislaine Maxwell to people not Jeffrey Epstein. That does not mean the story is unimportant. The story is still important because it exposes, again, the cultural milieu in which too many elitists in our society, people who control others, get together, formulate their values, hang out, and decide what they think is right, good, and true. So, over the weekend...
You are obsessed with one of them. The entire, last few years of your life has been dedicated to bringing these people into power, such as, Donald Trump.
On Friday, the Department of Justice announced the release of some 3.5 million pages of Epstein documents. Now, I will say that I think that the way these documents were released, it appears not to be particularly smart. It turns out, for example, that a huge number of names of the Epstein victims were exposed, which is illegal. You are not supposed to do that. That was originally the reason why the DOJ
Thanks, Ben.
did not release these gigantic tranches of documents, because they had not...
By the way, I think they've used AI to edit it in some kind of way. I don't know how it's been done, but there are just so many editing inconsistencies. Apparently, there are just, nude images put in there at certain points. And by the way, I don't know if any of you are aware of this, there's a huge amount of, nudie magazines and also, local people that you could ring up and get to come and strip at your house and stuff, and they're blurred out, but there's just a huge amount of stuff there
on the proper redactions, and as it turns out, they actually didn't do the thing they were supposed to do. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Justice Department exposed the names of dozens of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, including many who haven't shared their identities publicly or were minors when they were abused by the notorious sex offender. A review of 47 victims' full names on Sunday found that 43 of them were left unredacted in files that were made.
I also love this notion where you can see people paying Jeffrey Epstein money to meet certain girls, and Jeffrey Epstein, being accused of doing this, and the notion that no one else around him got involved in that. Who do you think those people he was trafficking were having sex with, right? I told you can find out about the Austrian girl that he was talking to for ages just by doing a little bit of your own research. And yeah, like the stream if you can.
Made public by the government on Friday, according to a Wall Street Journal analysis. Several women's full names appeared more than 100 times in the file. The Justice Department was required to redact all victims' names prior to releasing the files. Apparently, there was one minor victim who was mentioned over 160 times in the file. So that's bad, and that is a bad job by the DOJ.
You know what's a worse job? That Donald Trump clearly knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile, and we didn't even need the Epstein files to tell us this. That there's the old interview which tells us, hey, actually, this is the case that Donald Trump joked about secrets with Jeffrey Epstein. This guy who is a convicted pedophile. He joked about how Epstein liked women on the younger side, and that Epstein was perhaps the only person who had liked women as much as he had. That there are actually multiple people who've accused him of sexual misconduct. There's literally... I must have seen it before, but I'm sure that all of you are aware of this. At least 28 women have accused Donald Trump of various sexual misconduct. Groping without consent, looking under skirts, and walking in on naked pageant contests. And, it ranges to much more extreme stuff. And there's what's the name of the... there are hundreds of mentions of Epstein in here, and Trump and Epstein doing this stuff together. And what, you want me to just believe that you're upset and incensed by this? These are the worst takes as well. People like Rogan, people like that guy we just watched. The guy we watched is probably the worst of all of them, because he could reckon with the fact of oh yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was a high profile political operator, maybe engaging in, sensitive security work. And yet apparently, no, he's just some guy that it's okay that the radical left are trying to use against Trump.
It is also true that because an enormous amount of this is sort of raw data that was taken in by the FBI, a huge amount of the stuff that is now being trafficked online is unverified, unverifiable, or from the tip line. That is the reality. So, for example, people going after President Trump and suggesting that Trump is in the files. So the DOJ had a document.
I like how, suggesting Trump is in the files. Your boy Donald. What are you saying this is? You're saying that Kathy Rumler responded, your boy Donald's. I can't find that. That doesn't seem to be in the files. Something saying your boy Donald's. Oh, no, wait. No, it is. Your boy Donald's news dwarfs everything. Kathy Rumler. What was the Trump news then? 2016. So this is from October 2016. Jane Doe was scheduled to appear, press conference 6 days, abruptly cancelled event. Her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, asserted the woman had received threats. The suit was dropped. Trump attorney Alan Garten denies the allegations. Okay, so this is probably to do with a Jane Doe who accused Trump of engaging in crimes and Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, I've read that case. It's despicable. But yeah, no. People are just going after Trump for no reason.
August 7th, 2025, with the various mentions of President Trump in the national...
Look at his little hands twisting and shaking, like shaking because he knows he actually has to do some reporting on the people who pay his salary, who think exactly like he does and pretend that he's different for them.
Threat Operations Center tip line. Now, here's the problem. The National Threat Operations Center tip line receives somewhere between 3,000 and 4,500 calls or electronic tips per day. Many report secondhand information. Most claims, I believe all claims at this point when they are taken in are unverified, right? It takes further investigation to verify them. So you've seen people on the left run around and say President Trump is alleged to have forced an underage girl, 13, 14 years old, to perform oral sex. Well, it turns out that is totally unverified. They tried to run it down. They were unable.
Yeah, it's totally unverified, so I guess we shouldn't bother talking about it. It's not like there's huge amounts of information. Vis-a-vis, we don't need these files. These files did not need to exist to prove that Jeffrey Epstein and Trump had a perverse and despicable relationship, because we could, first of all, just have seen the previous allegations and corroborated with those with all of Trump's proven pervy behavior, and also applied it to the fact that he constantly made pervy discussions about him and Epstein together, like an Epstein liking younger women.
To substantiate it. There is another complaint suggesting that a caller said that at age 16, she attended 8 parties at Epstein's New York residence, and on one occasion reported she was sexually assaulted by Epstein, and then suggested also that there was a party involving a number of famous people, including Bill Clinton and...
I also really think it's funny how loads of these right-wingers and they're also like liberal, or I was going to say left-wing, they are libs, who are like political and media elite who are like, guys, time to stop talking about the Epstein files. No one cares about them. And it just shows you how out of touch these people are, that they genuinely think most people and like most random people aren't just, oh, these Epstein files are really fucking interesting, aren't they? And, oh, this is quite weird. Look at what elites are up to. It's very obvious that people are obsessed with what elites are up to. You know? It is utterly ridiculous. Trump wrote Trump wrote this romantic screenplay that he denied writing, which is obviously written by him.
Donald Trump, and that she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Ranchos Palos Verdes in California. Well, the FBI actually spoke to that person, and the complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. And the person had had several mandatory psychiatric...
By the way, also, all of these people who go on and on about the grooming gang scandal in the UK in the same way that fucking Ben Shapiro would, one of the reasons the grooming gang scandal went on was because all of the witnesses were deemed uncredible because they came from, like, broken homes, because they'd become addicted to drugs, because they'd had problems with the police, largely to do with their grooming. And then these people would be like, we have to get justice for the grooming gangs! And yet they're like, oh, everything to defend Donald Trump, right? Everything to just justify that every witness has no credibility and Trump was actually a good and moral man. And by the way, Terratro, thanks for the $2.
Evaluations. Okay, so there are lots of claims that are like this in these files, and trying to actually run down the source of the claims is really important because one of the things that happens in internet land is people will take unverified, salacious allegations that have not been run down by the FBI. They will then run those through the internet machine, and suddenly this becomes likely probable truth. Well, you actually have to run down each specific allegation in the 3.5 million pages of data.
By the way, his entire career is dedicated to making up allegations against the Palestinian people as a whole so they can be mass slaughtered and spewing out Israel's unverified claims. So please be quiet.
Or you run with the, it's definitely true, or it's verified, or this is the reason why policy X, Y, or Z happened. And there's just a call for evidence. And if the evidence shows what people want it to show, and I really believe that. I think there are a lot of people who want this evidence to show that, in fact, the Jeffrey Epstein pedophilic sex ring has been running all of global politics for years, because that is a comforting thought for a lot of people.
I mean, I think that is a comforting thought in the sense of, oh yeah, these elites are responsible, and not having to be able to confront that capitalism works in mysterious ways. That, you know, and this kind of stuff extends beyond Jeffrey Epstein. But what I will say is it's certainly interesting to know that Jeffrey Epstein was telling, you know, your guy, Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister. Actually, he probably hated Barak, even though Barak was an extremist. He wasn't extreme enough for Mr. Shapiro. He wasn't Kahana, probably. But anyway, the Epstein was close friends with him, that he was telling him what to get into, Palantir, these organizations that have come into considerable prominent power in recent years, and also in the sense of people like Sulayem and all of the UAE related stuff, Epstein's weapons work. And someone said comforting. It's often comforting to believe that this is all specifically down to just a few people rather than the larger. No. What he means this by comforting is that people who are fully okay, Epstein is responsible for everything that has ever happened in the entire world, and that's it. In a sense, there is a correctness to that, but the bit that he wouldn't admit is the fact that it's just a product of capitalism, that greedy, horrifying, and immoral people become the richest, and they continually enact depraved things, but that does, and many of them have sway and engage in these shady dealings, but that doesn't mean Epstein controlled the world entirely. Because I think if Epstein did control the world, one of the things he would have done was take down Donald Trump, because seemingly, I don't know if there's a full explanation. I think some people think it's over a lady, and that's the most convincing explanation I've heard, that him and Epstein had serious beef over a lady. Also, by the way, in one of the allegations, there's apparently Trump making a really anti-Semitic remark to Jeffrey Epstein.
The nature of how politics works. That actually there is a coterie of people who are very sophisticated, who are running everything in American public life. And those people are being linked by pedophilic sex orgies and all this kind of stuff. There's a large swath of people for whom this idea is appealing. The evidence is not there. If the evidence presents itself, we will be happy to cover it.
I mean, what I will say is, Jeffrey Epstein was fed information by Peter Mandelson. He clearly held sway over Peter Mandelson. He held sway over Ehud Barak, Israel's most decorated ever soldier. I think there's a couple of things to say about that, and acting as if there's none of that in there is pretty insane. It's pretty insane, but, this is why I come to Ben Shapiro, to hear about all of this stuff. What I mean is that the oversimplified explanation, rather than confronting of, hey, yeah, Epstein is definitely a guy who had sway and power, but he wasn't responsible for everything, and I think obfuscating the way in which capital unfortunately works is kind of foolish. But at the same time, I don't think we should undermine the significance of who and what Jeffrey Epstein was and is in the way that Ben Shapiro, of course, does, because he can't admit it, because he has worshipped Donald Trump. He has worshipped Republicans his entire life. His entire career is based on worshipping Republicans, towing a line on Israel and stuff, and so he, of course, can't deal with Jeffrey Epstein, because Jeffrey Epstein is an excess of capitalism. Jeffrey Epstein, in part, got away with what he did for so long, not just because he had all of these powerful friends, but because he could pay fucking lawyers, because he could pay people probably as well to threaten women, because he basically had unlimited money to go and traffic women who had no passports, who had no knowledge of living in America and bring them over to the US for him and his friends to do whatever they wanted with them. And then they wouldn't be believed because, you know, there's some random Russian woman going, oh, I've been, or Ukrainian or whatever, coming in and saying, oh, I've been abused by Bill Gates and this person, that person. And the police would just be like, nah, that's not credible. Why should we do that? Epstein influenced, in my understanding, he gave money through a dark money organization to influence the electoral results to influence the election, of the Virgin Islands, and then the governor of the Virgin Islands quashed an investigation into him. Epstein over and over again had investigations into him squashed, and I think that can get lost in all of the stuff we're talking about. The power and money, it's not just the blackmail. The blackmail, of course, matters, but the power and money that this man had to pay some creep like Alan Dershowitz to do this shit, to protect him his entire life, is also amazingly important.
The evidence is not there. There's evidence that there are a lot of pervs who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein.
And many of them are the people who you've worshipped your entire life. Fucking Donald Trump.
Jeffrey Epstein appealed to those pervs with largely 26-year-old Russian models. And there's a lot of evidence that...
I love how this is their defense. Like, I swear you people are constantly concerned about what immigrants are apparently doing to women in your country, you know, that you're really, really sad about that you worry so deeply about poor white women being attacked by the evil foreigner. But yet when it comes to Russian women being sex trafficked, it's just, oh, they're 26-year-old Russian models. Yeah, okay. I know everyone's been talking about that alleged thing where he's talking about a 9-year-old Brazilian. The only reason that I believe that that's a 19-year-old is because the equal sign is in front of the 9. And as you guys know, a lot of the mistakes in it come from, when there's something missing, it puts in an equal sign. But yeah, just 26-year-old Russian models, don't worry.
Jeffrey Epstein never should have been in those circles, and that these pervs are perfectly happy to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein and greenlight his criminal activities with a wink and a nod because they themselves hang out in those circles. This is why I liken this to the Diddy white parties. In any case, here is Deputy AG Todd Blanche announcing the release of 3.5 million pages.
Today, how is this show so badly produced that there's just a little bit of him sniffing as this comes on?
We are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the Act.
Okay, he went on to explain that the excluded files included pornography, victims' personal ID, and active investigations.
The categories of documents withheld include those permitted under the Act to be withheld. Files that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Any depiction of CSAM or child pornography was obviously excluded. Anything that would jeopardize an active federal investigation. And finally, anything that depicts or contain images of death, physical abuse, or injury.
What's he talking about here? That all of death, physical abuse, and injury have been removed from it. Does that mean that was happening there? So what are you talking about, my friend? What's happened in these files that we're not seeing? I mean, I think it's a good idea maybe not to send out, to just give out huge amounts of images and photographs of people being abused. But, yeah. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. By the way, that rabbi, some of you will be familiar with who he, sorry, no, not rabbi. That's just someone making a joke. His name is, Imam, is it Imam Faris? Sheikh Faris al-Hamadi. Hamadi is running defense for the Epstein files and saying that Muslims shouldn't talk about it. We'll see that one.
Also not produced. Although the Act allows for withholding for items necessary to keep secret in the interest of national security or foreign policy, no files are being withheld or redacted on that basis.
Okay. Blanche went on to blast people accusing the DOJ of somehow covering for or supporting pedophiles. He says, listen, it's our job to prosecute crimes when we can uncover evidence of the crimes. It is not our job to pretend that every tip that comes into the National Center is somehow credible, verifiable, or prosecutable.
Over the past...
I just think in any context, right, where you... Okay, let's say... if you set up a hypothetical for any of these people, if there was a left-wing or an immigrant person who was friends with a guy who's a pedophile, right, gets convicted, and that left-wing person had said, or this immigrant had said, oh, I love girls almost as much as he does, and he likes them on the younger side, I think someone like Ben Shapiro would be like, that person needs to be prosecuted, that person needs to be investigated as hard as possible, and everything to that ability. But when it comes to Donald Trump, it's how can I cover for them?
Several months last summer and into the fall, we executed Operation Restore Justice, rescuing 205 child victims and arresting 293 offenders. I point this out because I take umbrage at the suggestion, which is totally false, that the Attorney General or this department does not take child exploitation or sex trafficking seriously, or that we somehow do not want to protect victims. We do.
Well, also, you guys are mentioning the torture video being discussed. Why don't we know who's discussing the torture video? Sure, we don't have to see it, but we could know who's discussing it. Why is that redacted?
There are some select members of Congress and some in the public eye.
And yeah, I think the context existing of why Epstein was sending those things is probably really important, right? Those things shouldn't be... You can entirely remove the images, the most graphic of the discussions, but the people who Epstein was discussing this stuff with should not have been redacted.
Including those most critical of our efforts at full transparency under the Act, who remain silent as to all the work that we have done and continue to do every day in this space.
Okay, the Deputy AG Todd Blanche continued. He said, a lot of these claims are basically uninvestigatable. This is him on CNN with Dana Bash, who's asking, was full investigation done? He's like, a lot of this is just kind of like raw material that's being culled from people who may not be particularly credible.
There are literally there are emails from Epstein, and this is just, by the way, Ben Shapiro's show is just straight up just, here's the government narrative about Jeffrey Epstein. Look how well the government are defending themselves on Jeffrey Epstein.
Bro.
I want to hear him talk some more himself. It's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable that this is what his show is. And he acts like he's some kind of fucking dissident thinker. You want me to check in with Poole? Maybe. We're going to see what Faris is saying next. Yeah, Faris al-Hamadi.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is just... Do you want the documents? You don't want the documents. If you want the documents, you don't get to complain they're hard to sort through.
Yes, you do. The Epstein files are meant to be searchable. We should be able to get... These files should be put together in such a way that they are all searchable day by day, that we can get chains of emails of what Epstein was talking about. So sometimes when you're on them, you'll find an email and then you'll find 10 versions of it with one tiny difference over and over again. And it's like, what are you talking about here? I think they've buffed up the 3 million files in doing that they've cut out even more than they're saying. That loads of the files counted are just huge amounts of repetition.
So you do an every diligence process, by the way. Now, there are 5 separate claims that are being basically made about Epstein. And I think that some of them...
I think that Epstein was great. I think he was great.
Are well substantiated, and others of them are really not, and they're all being conflated into the giant Epstein overall theory. And I think that that's a problem, because we ought to actually pursue the evidence where it takes us. So, one claim is obviously true. Epstein was connected with a lot of famous and rich people, and many of them knew he was a pedophilic convict, and they continued to hang out with him. That is undoubtedly true. That is undoubtedly true. Apparently, according to NBC News, documents released Friday by the Justice Department show at least 16 emails, for example, between Elon Musk and Epstein in 2012 and 2013, including multiple instances where Musk expressed interest in visiting Epstein's island. Musk wrote in an email to Epstein in November 2012, quote, "What day or night will be the wildest party on your island?" And apparently he sought to visit the island at least twice, once in late 2012 and again in late 2013. Now, again, if you look at the emails, it's really more Epstein pushing him hard to come than
No, it's not. He says, what day's the wildest party on your island? What? Anything to defend the paedophile billionaires who are, or the creepy billionaires at Medium who are friends with him.
Elon, out of the blue, soliciting, can I come to your island? In one post on X, Musk said, I've never been to any Epstein parties ever. I have many times called for the prosecution of those who have committed crimes with Epstein. The acid test for justice is not the release of the files, but rather the prosecution of those who committed heinous crimes with Epstein. Okay, but that is assuming facts not in evidence, namely that there is evidence to prosecute people who committed heinous crimes with Epstein, and those prosecutions have not yet been done. Right? Again, that will get to some of the other claims.
Like, also, by the way, they have buffed out the files hugely, like, by things like this, okay? Look at just this, just over and over again, emails that are apparently just about that are not relevant, that are post his death, that are sent to some kind of inbox that we're apparently needing to be given. No, I think they've cut out huge amounts of stuff, because obviously Epstein died before the peak of the pandemic. And yet they just choose to put all of that in. No, I don't trust any of this.
In just a moment. But the fact that people were continuing to hold on conversations with Jeffrey Epstein in 2012, after he pled guilty in 2008 to procuring an underage girl for prostitution and then registered as a sex offender, is a problem. There was a copy of Epstein's daily schedules released September 26th by House Democrats, and it showed that Musk was tentatively expected to visit Epstein's island in December 2014. Musk said that the schedule entry was false. He said Epstein tried to get me to go to his island, and I refused. But I mean, it is incontrovertible. It is non-contested that Epstein had relationships with a bunch of very rich and powerful people, and that he did what a lot of con artists do, which is he would use his association with certain rich people to get in bed with other rich people, and then he would offer them perks or benefits, and some would take them up and some would not. I think it is almost incontrovertible that Epstein...
Bro, he was a sex trafficker. It's actually amazing. It's actually amazing. He was a sex trafficker, bro. You're just like, oh, he had these relationships and offered them perks. That perk being sex trafficking women to them?
Probably connected some of these people with prostitutes. You know, that is in the files. Right? He certainly did, apparently, with Prince Andrew, allegedly with Prince Andrew, is that he was hooking people up with women who were...
Also, the notion, by the way, the notion that security services didn't know about this, you're telling me that the royal family, like I grew up right near, near like where some of the royals are from when I was younger. And in that area, there are so many police who literally just work for the royal family that go and like sweep areas. You're telling me that Prince Andrew kept on meeting with this pedo and none of them were like, maybe we should do some digging. Maybe we should do some checking on who this is. And that security apparatuses and security things just didn't bother looking into him. Bullshit. Bullshit. It's like, by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my personal friends who wrote an article for Maghrebi, a guy who I know quite well. If I can get it up, which is not working. I'm sure that you've seen this. Someone was emailing Greg Brown, who we don't know who he is, was emailing Epstein about how he was going to get MI6 and Mossad people to help him get money out of Libya. Listen, I also have friends formerly with MI6 and Mossad willing to help identify stolen assets and get them recovered. And my friend wrote this article for Maghrebi. New files expose Epstein's Israel ties in Libya scheme. If you want to check it out, it's just like a short piece about it. It's good.
Overage, right, that we know from some of the emails. We also know, again, that he was connected with a wide variety of powerful people, ranging from Bill Gates to Kathy Rumler, the top lawyer at Goldman Sachs, and a White House counsel under former President Barack Obama. In December 2015, there was an email exchange where she said, I adore him. It's like having another older brother. And so, again, very highly connected. No shock here.
So what did he offer to Kathy Rumler, mate? What was it about Kathy Rumler that he could offer with just a couple of prostitutes? What is it? I'd like to know. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely going to make a video out of this. This won't be included in it, but yeah, it's just like not all of this because it's just
right? Scumbag and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak.
Of course he hates, he hates Ehud Barak, literally because he's not fucking Netanyahu.
Used to routinely stay at the New York apartment Jeffrey Epstein owned. Barak, of course, has been complicit in a wide variety of activities undermining the Israeli government, actually.
Ben Shapiro is perhaps the only or one of the few people who is upset over Ehud Barak undermining the Israeli government rather than being Jeffrey Epstein's best friend who was cutting perverse security deals that were then used by the Israeli government, basically.
Also, there are reports.
Is that all we're going to get out of all we're going to get out of the links between Barak and Epstein? Is that all we're getting, mate?
That apparently Epstein sent an email to himself claiming that Bill Gates had obtained an STD from a prostitute and then passed it on to his wife. That is, again, according to an email that Epstein sent to File. The files include 2 draft emails dated July 18th, 2013, according to Newsweek, written from Epstein's own email address back to the same account, with no indication they were ever sent or that Bill Gates ever received them.
Yeah, let's gloss over the Israel bit quickly. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to gloss over, Epstein meeting with, Epstein meeting with Ehud Barak and them discussing, whilst Ehud Barak was Israel's Minister of Defense, by the way. Let's keep that in mind. Let's not forget that he was Israel's defense minister.
One draft takes the form of a resignation letter from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, alleging that medication had been procured for Gates to, quote, deal with the consequences of sex with Russian girls. The other begins Dear Bill and accuses Gates of ending a friendship while repeating lurid claims he concealed an STD, including allegedly from his then wife.
By the way, if you just, once again, this is why, like, a lot of people are like, oh, CoffeeZilla's not that great. Yeah, CoffeeZilla may not be fucking perfect, but he is a great example of the problem of the mainstream media versus someone doing their own reporting. And we're going to talk about Bill Gates a little later, because Melinda Gates' commentary was quite interesting on this topic.
Melinda, Gates' spokesperson, said the allegations come from, quote, a proven disgruntled liar, and reiterated they are absolutely absurd and completely false. But we know, obviously, that there have been troubles between Bill and Melinda Gates for a long time. Meanwhile, there is a report. Again, these are unsubstantiated reports, so you have to kind of look at the source of each one of the claims. Yes, there's an unsubstantiated report attributed to, quote, intelligence sources by the UK Daily Mail, suggesting that Epstein was running the world's largest honey trap operation on behalf of the KGB. But there are no actual supporting documentary details that are provided in this piece. The files include over 1,000 documents naming Russian President Vladimir Putin and almost 10,000 referring to Moscow. And Epstein was able to secure audiences with Putin after his 2008 conviction.
By the way, the actual interesting thing about the Putin stuff is he had to work really hard to get that. And multiple times they couldn't get it. Barak did have some friends out there. I think he's called Vexelberg. And I think the funny thing is Ben Shapiro would repeat anything and everything he could about Palestinians, but when it comes to protecting Jeffrey Epstein and the Republicans who he worships, oh no.
The sources say it could explain why Epstein...
I think Epstein will have had connections in Russia. Like, I don't doubt it. But it is just, to me, what makes these so egregious is the file... I've never seen someone spin a convincing narrative. They all rely on, well, my sources tell me this and my sources tell me that. And they don't actually rely heavily on the files. Whereas all of the stuff I've seen to build his relationships with Israel are like, hey, he was really close personal fucking friends with Ehud Barak, and there is like there's that tweet about him talking about, it's not tweet, it's in the files of him like that convinced them that I'm not a Mossad agent,
Epstein appeared to enjoy an ultra-wealthy lifestyle out of kilter with his career as a financier. Although there's no documentary evidence linking Putin and his spies directly to Epstein's illicit activities. Again, people are looking at smoke, and I understand they want to look for fire. Okay, so...
so there's no evidence that Putin and his spies were linked, but there is evidence that Israel's defense minister was getting advice on how to meet Putin from Jeffrey Epstein, right? isn't it just kind of odd that all of these people went to Jeffrey Epstein for advice on how to deal with Putin? Some went for advice how to deal with Trump and all of this stuff. So, you know.
Here's the stuff that seems to be true. Again, Epstein connected with famous rich people who knew he was a pedophilic convict and continued to hang out with him. In some cases, continued to try to burnish his reputation and getting good with him. That would include Steve Bannon. 2 hours of tape between Bannon and Epstein were released from interviews that happened some years ago. And
look, I'm not enough of an expert on... hold on. I want to put my gum out. I'm not enough of an expert on Bannon. How close was Bannon with Trump in 2018? Like, what was his relationship with Trump then?
This was in the part of Steve Bannon's career where he saw Epstein as a powerful connection and a person presumably he was going to try to rehab. There are apparently 13 hours more of that has not yet been released. It's kind of shocking to me that Bannon basically was doing PR rehab on Jeffrey Epstein and continues to go out there and be one of the main progenitors.
But you're doing PR rehab on all of Epstein's associates.
Of the sort of Epstein scandal. Dude, you should know better than...
Yeah, I can find, like, you can definitely find Epstein going to Russia. You can find him talking to Jean-Luc Brunel before he goes and does it. I don't know.
And anyone you hung...
But I haven't seen that much convincing. It's all based on conjecture of just like, no, he was, because he was friends with Maxwell and stuff. And yeah, okay, I think there's some significance to that. And there's trips of him going to Russia, but I think there's quite a high amount of stuff relating to, stuff relating to Israel that is getting ignored.
Out with the guy. It's pretty impressive. Okay, 2, Epstein connected some of these people with prostitutes. I think that's quite likely. I mean, you assume that the parties he was holding on Epstein...
But they're not just prostitutes as well. Like, I feel like this is ridiculous to say. These are sex-trafficked women, by the way. And look, there's commentary to be made on all sex work. But I think specifically a billionaire bringing you over and having near total control over your life and sending you out to rich men and then being allowed to do whatever they want is, insane. It's insane to kind of just be like, yeah, they're prostitutes and that's it.
Island did include women, which is presumably why so many people, again, like Diddy White parties, why they wanted to go there. Now, is there evidence that he trafficked underage girls to them? That's the part where the DOJ has yet to substantiate. Because the conviction of Jeffrey Epstein...
But there's him messaging sex traffickers. There's him talking to all these men. What do you... Like, genuinely, someone please explain to me, what do you think that these men all just wanted from Jeffrey Epstein?
And Ghislaine Maxwell was on the basis of him trafficking underage girls to himself, and Ghislaine Maxwell obtaining underage girls for him. Okay, then there is the corollary of that, which is that Epstein was supposedly blackmailing these people. Again, we have yet to see any hard evidence of blackmail of these people. Right? That evidence has not emerged. Maybe it's true and maybe it's not, but there's no evidence of it in a hard way at this point. There just isn't. And then the final corollary of that is the theory that Epstein was blackmailing them on behalf of a foreign power or a cadre of powerful people who are attempting to shape global policy. And that is not an evidence either.
There are certainly people shaping global policy in there, like categorically there are. Perhaps there's no direct proof of blackmail, but there's him sending like sexual messages with, the leader of Dubai and helping to bring connections between Israel and the UAE. No, it's not Maktoum, sorry, excuse me. It's Sulayem, who's the head of DP World.
So, again, I think it's very important in the Epstein scandal to try and distinguish what is true from what is supposed. Because those are not quite the same thing. And in the interest of accuracy, we should actually follow what is true and what is evidenced at this point. Again, we will follow where the evidence leads. But so far, the evidence of the more...
Yeah, exactly. But, even this is like a degree of, I don't know, someone with more competency and in the issue might be able to speak more competently than I. But there are definitely like degrees of being a sex worker. And certainly like a situation like this, it feels like just so despicable to just be like, yep, they're just prostitutes given out to people, when you can literally read Epstein choosing things about them, paying for them to go to school, paying for them to do this, teaching them how to have sex with men and stuff. It's weird. You can find all this in the files. It's not normal. That's not just like procuring some random prostitute for a guy. Like, that's inappropriate too, but this is something else. This is something far more much worse.
Outlandish claims is scanty, and the evidence that this dude was trafficking with a bunch of his friends and very powerful people, the evidence there is very, very solid. And that evidence, unfortunately, is unsurprising. And meanwhile, in other...
God, Jesus Christ. God, Ben Shapiro is fucking pathetic. Let's hear what Faris Al-Hamadi has to tell us about why you shouldn't talk about the Epstein files.
Should we still obey the ruler if he has been in the Epstein files? أولا these files يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبين. You read something online خلاص it's the Quran يعني استغفر الله. شو أنت مجانين? You're Muslims? You think like that? Anybody who gives you any piece of news خلاص? Oh look, he's in the Epstein files. Oh my God, so true. حق, this is حق. والله you like sheep. والله sheep for the kuffar. أقسم بالله you sheep like for the kuffar. فاسق كافر unknown person comes online, gives you something. He's in the Epstein file.
By the way, this guy's from the UAE. If you're wondering why he's doing this, it's to defend Sulayem, who's sending messages. By the way, Sulayem sent some really interesting messages to Epstein about how he thinks that how he's like pro-trans people. He says Jeffrey Epstein's asking him about like, oh, if it was once if the person. He says actually if the person were once a man and now has like had surgery and is like has like every or like has undergone full bottom surgery, would you consider that a woman? And he said 100% female, Sultan bin Sulayem. And this guy's, by the way, an Emirati kind of... This guy's entire politics is doing, like, you shouldn't do anything against your leaders. Muslims shouldn't protest. He gets paid probably very heavily by the UAE. He's kind of famous because he came up with all of these things, like... He had, like, all of these famous videos, like, is selling cats in Islam haram?
In the Epstein files, خلاص? No, he is. It's true. It's true. The evidence are there. It's in Sahih Bukhari. It's Epstein files. The majnoon. That's number one. Number two, give you that benefit, يعني, for debate's sake. Yes, still you still have to obey him. You still have to obey him. It's FBI verified. MashaAllah, FBI verified. FBI صحيح FBI, ها? متفق عليه. FBI. شو الكلام الفاضي هذا? Since when do we take the narration of kuffar in such a way? Idiots.
Sorry, this is a really odd video. This is an unusual video, I will say.
يعني انت فهمني. Just let me understand this. Let me understand this. You as a Muslim taking news about your brother from the enemy and believing it.
Bro, this is Sulayem. There are huge that like. This is better. At least this is more enjoyable to watch in terms of the ridiculousness of, ridiculous of the defense. There are literally photos of Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem with Jeffrey Epstein. There are messages that categorically came from him. There are also discussions of Sulayem that are like, oh, I'm with my Irish girlfriend when he had a wife and stuff. And yet this guy's just like, no, don't believe the kuffar. It's kind of like, have you guys ever seen Four Lions where, they just keep using kuffar in a way that it's just like, basically so they can use it to just say anything. This guy is just doing it so he's like, yeah, you have to trust the rulers of the UAE.
Does that sound logical to you? Didn't it occur to you that they're lying? Or it's not true, or they're trying to do something about us, trying to cause damage, harm us?
Trying to cause harm to the UAE by creating photos of Sultan bin Sulayem making eggs with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, The FBI has created this image and everything just to cause harm to the UAE.
What benefit is that? He's in the Epstein files.
What benefit is that? Bro, he was hanging around with a rich billionaire and talking openly about having sex with just having sex with anyone and whoever.
And all of them, I don't. A person who is a Muslim, who fears Allah, will not talk about Epstein.
Like, this isn't... By the way, this is also a microcosm of how the UAE uses religion as a means to prevent any kind of, like, discussion about... to prevent any kind of political dissent. He wants people not to talk about the Epstein files because obviously it reflects badly on the Emirates rulers.
Wait. You talking about the Epstein files. You have a Naruto profile picture, right? Is that you? Honestly, is that you, right? You have a Naruto profile picture. You have a Naruto profile picture. And you're talking about politics. Allah.
Look, I'm gonna say in the grand scale of things, I'm gonna say in the grand scale of things, I would say having a Naruto profile picture might be a lot better than, you know, being in the Epstein files. And I feel like, you know, talking about the Epstein files might be something a little bit more important than having the old Naruto profile picture. Okay, so we'll move on to listen to Ezra Klein, which, by the way, has also sparked the drop site stuff, which maybe I'll talk about because that's crazy too.
Scale. And I think those sides of his life were mostly separate. I don't quarters to boldface names somewhere.
Good people. Yeah.
I don't even know if I can fucking watch this because the New York Times has got some fucking music clip on. Ugh. But he was saying, so he was of the opinion that basically, hold on, actually, there's another Ezra Klein Epstein video. But he's of the opinion that basically the lies were kept separate, which is entirely the lie that Peter Mandelson told. He was like, oh yes, the thing about Jeffrey was he wouldn't involve me because I was a gay man. And being gay, I couldn't be involved with Jeffrey Epstein. No.
There's some part of me, right, as somebody who's like a little bit mistrustful often of conspiracies, when you sit back and you're like, we've seen Cosby, we've seen the Diddy parties, we've seen the Epstein thing. It's this weird thing about QAnon, which...
By the way, Epstein is also incomparable to any of that kind of stuff.
Obviously was full of horseshit, and then there is more elite sex criming happening.
Yeah.
You know, and
Do we owe
more of it
QAnon an apology?
And more of it was going on with like the knowledge of other people than one would have thought. Like even like going back to that weird Trump comment on Epstein that like he loves beautiful women as much as me, but he likes them young.
Yeah.
Right? Like he knew.
Yeah.
You can say what you want to say about whether or not he was involved, but he knew.
Yeah. And he wasn't the only one that knew.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that's so weird about this story is that...
So wait, why is there then a video of Ezra Klein saying, oh no, he kept his lives separate? Like, why do you make a video like that when you're like, oh no, Trump knew? Trump knew 100%.
I find it hard to believe that there's not at least a team of people. You're saying there's one wrangler, which is Ghislaine, and then there's Epstein, and he's managing billions of dollars with the most powerful people in the world. Like, there's no assistants. There's no
Is this Andrew Schultz? I don't know. I don't know who this is. Is this Andrew Schultz? It's from the Flagrant podcast. Who's the Flagrant Clips? What is Flagrant Clips? It is Andrew Schultz.
Workers. There's no banker. There's no lawyer. Like, who are these other people that are associated with this enterprise?
Alan Dershowitz, just about every powerful person that you can think of.
I don't know any of their names. I know 2 people. Doesn't that feel weird to you?
Yeah.
There's 12 people that work here every single day. 12 people that work here every single day. For some reason, he was able to run a $1 billion empire, get one of the wealthiest people in America's assets sent over to him, have power of attorney, and nobody knows the lawyer that even did that deal?
I do sometimes read things, not just about Epstein, but about all kinds of like very rich person scandaling, and I think like, where do you have all this time
Bro.
that me with my less busy life do not seem to have? Like, I'm having trouble getting to the gym. You're running this like while you are jetting around on your private jet, running your math salons. You're also somehow the scheduling must be.
This is the difference.
Working at a different level.
You have kids. He has sex with them. So having kids is way more difficult. Okay, they require your time all day. They require 15 minutes of his time. Okay. So continue doing that.
Yeah, I guess the argument would be like, well, he's a rampant pedophile and Ghislaine is the madam that's wrangling them, and that is
this actually sponsored by Steak, a fucking Ezra Klein podcast?
kept secretive from all of his other, like legal business
Well,
deals.
wasn't the structure of it, if I understand it correctly, that
So there are people who know about his former employees, right? There's a couple of people. There's a lady called Nadia Marchenko. That was one of Epstein's fixtures. There's people like Jean-Luc Brunel. Sometimes these were women who were trafficked themselves, who kind of rose up to be very important people for Epstein. There's someone who was involved with... he was someone who was involved. There's a guy called Richard Kahn who seemed to have quite an important role around Epstein. Les Wexner. There's a lot of different people who are heavily involved in this kind of stuff.
Worked like a multi-level marketing scheme, basically. They would bring in girls, and then they would basically say to the girls that if you bring in others, we will pay you.
Why would Epstein just keep bringing in girls, by the way, if he just kept this separate from the life of most people? And I don't... It's really hard to know what he was up to, right? Like, really hard to know what he was doing.
Like, they made the people they brought in and abused into recruiters.
So
that's what I understood from what
it
I
was like
remember.
Cutco knives or whatever.
Yeah, it was Cutco. Yeah.
But people knew, right? Yeah. I mean, they just had to.
So the thing
go
that I was asking you before is like,
well, Biden knew, Kamala knew, all of these people. That's why, like, look, when the Bolshevik Revolution happened, one of the things they did was just release loads of Imperial Russia's documents and just pop them out into the world. What I'm saying is, when the QAnon revolution could have happened on January 6th, they would, look, for all of their ills, for all of their faults, they probably would have just got the Epstein files and thrown them out to the world, which would have been interesting. Not to compare QAnon to the Bolsheviks, although I just did, but what can you do?
Is it possible this could be Trump's Watergate?
So there are two pieces to that, I think. One is...
he's boring me. Ezra Klein, boring. Boring, Ezra. Nick Fuentes, Epstein. We'll finish up with... Oh, wait. Actually, wait. There's one I want to watch. So this is Nellie Bowles, who's Hasbari's wife. Hasbari Weiss is a proud lesbian lady, and this is her wife, Nellie Bowles.
I was busted for the crime of reporting. A Daily Beast headline, a Columbia journalism professor, all yelling at me. And it's true. I met once for coffee with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, 8 years later, a Columbia journalism professor is using that coffee and my polite email as some gotcha, trying to spin me into a conspiracy with the man. I can't quite understand the logic of it at all, other than...
Well, I can understand the logic. I mean, you're married to fucking Barry Weiss, who's close with a lot of powerful people. Powerful people seem to be coalescing around Jeffrey Epstein, so... Yeah, I feel like that's why I might have reached that conclusion. Her name is Nellie Bowles. Nellie Bowles we'll go for.
Sort of gross, you emailed Epstein and sounded normal. Yes, I certainly did. I'm not sure how Columbia Journalism School professors teach students to email sources, but if anyone reading this is considering journalism school, let me save you Columbia's $91,854 annual fee. I promise you'll get more information when you sound nice and polite. And you sometimes should interact with criminals. It's important to sit with and tell the stories of kind, good, and decent people. But as a reporter, you also might want to sit with bad people, given that our profession is about exposing the powerful and the corrupt.
Did she do much to expose him?
And the truly evil It's essential. Now, it's definitely cleaner to do that work from the outside. Little social media.
You would think she had, like, I don't know if she's going to show it, but so far I've not seen much evidence that that's what she was getting up to, right?
Investigations and Freedom of Information Act requests and regurgitating law enforcement records. But I mean sitting down and talking with a very bad person, looking them in the eye, describing what they are like. A great reporter can sit across from danger and power and make a reader feel like they were there too. Which brings me back to my true failing here, because there certainly is one. My regret is that I had the chance to profile one of the darkest, most interesting characters of that moment, and I didn't. I had the chance to start a long conversation.
So what were you doing with him?
That could have been the biggest story of my life, and I chickened out after a single coffee gave me the heebie-jeebies.
A coffee gave you the heebie-jeebies. You were so creeped out by Jeffrey Epstein. And one of you mentioned this. I've just found it. So here's an email between Jeffrey Epstein and Nellie Bowles. How did introducing your partner to mom? How did it go introducing your partner to mom? Even better than the good career move? Ahaha, I missed this and figured out who you were. It actually went great. How's New York? Which prince is trying to buy the house today? That was on my 18th birthday, by the way, the 15th of October, 2018. I'm trying to buy Cosby. Checks out. Weird. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about there.
The fact that there's only one exchange with me in the Epstein files shows my weakness as a reporter. There should have been more.
I cannot believe this defense. This is the most golden. So just looking into these files, I'd seen people mention that she was mentioned. This isn't the only time she was mentioned. So here, Masha Drovka? Masha Drovka. Dravoka. Sorry, Masha Dravoka is an... Masha Bucha? Maria Alexander, known as Masha Drovka. She is a Russian investor and venture capitalist. She is a former federal commissioner and spokesperson for the pro-Kremlin youth movement Nashi and the founder of the investment firm Day One Ventures. Okay, so this is a Russian venture capitalist talking about Masha Dravoka. I have a new friend who's fun and smart. She's a New York Times reporter. She's visiting NYC from Santa Fe. Let me know if you'd like to meet her. No agenda, just for fun. I like her a lot. Happy to, but not there until evening on 3rd. Can Skype anytime with anyone you choose or meet. Week or two, she 80 deciding on exact time. She can contact me on the 4th. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't feel there like you're just kind of meeting some guy to profile evil. It feels like you were hanging around with someone who knew Jeffrey Epstein and was like, oh, go and talk to him. Okay, so this is other ones. When you and your babe back in NYC... Aha, I missed this. When you and your babe back in NYC. By babe, is he talking about fucking... Is he talking about Hasbari Vice? Okay, here's another one. Hello, Nelly. Jeffrey will be in New York. Might you be around to come meet him? Masha believes you will both enjoy each other's company. That doesn't... Where's the reporting on him, right? Like, where's the reporting on him? Did she write a story about him? That you'll kind of enjoy each other's company? I don't know. That feels really odd. That feels really odd, and I don't think we're getting the full story here. I think there might be some stuff missing from this, that you're kind of just hanging, like, that Jeffrey Epstein is kind of like, oh, you'll be a good friend of his? I don't know. Stee keys are all next to R keys. I don't know what you're talking about. Stee keys? Like, yeah, this is definitely an interesting defense to go with. It's not played out in the files. I'm just keeping on looking through and seeing if we can get anything more. Leslie Groff. Nellie Bowles is here. Okay. Let me just have a look. I'm just keeping on looking in. Thanks, Nellie Bowles. So she didn't write anything about him. This was just her defense. This is a really good defense, I've got to say. This is a brilliant defense, even, I might go for. Yeah, just saying like, oh, I decided not to do the profile. Why did you meet him? Ali Voop promo. Why should Avaloop promo? Why should I Avaloop promo on YouTube? Why? What is it?
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective buying website for anything aviation. We offer deals on flight lessons, pilot accessories, fuel, FBO services, charter flights, and even small aircraft. Our deals are usually 50 to 90% off. That means whether you want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or to see more girls like me, Aviloop can help. You can even vote for your favorite deal attendant and win special prizes. Our membership is completely free. Our deals are unbeatable. And there's no catch. So what are you waiting for, Captain? Subscribe to our newsletter and get in the loop.
Hi, welcome to Cole's Flight School on avaloop.com. My name is Ashley and I'm your deal attendant.
We're watching here, all of the Avaloop promotional videos are created by Jeffrey Epstein associate Nadia Marcinko,
who claims that humans were not meant to fly, never experienced the thrill of their own successful landing. If you've been bitten by the flying bug and you want to add multi-engine to your pretty green license, this is your opportunity to do it.
Why are there loads of like dogs in the background, and how is this made so badly in 2018?
50% off. You don't see that very often. Today's deal includes all the necessary ground school and 15 hours of multi-engine flight training. Get ready to fly big boy airplanes. To purchase this deal, you must hold at least a private pilot license and a current medical certificate. Don't miss out and click on that big blue button. You know you want to.
Hi, welcome to Classic Flight Training on Aviloop.com. My name is Claire and I'm your deal attendant. With today's deal, you can channel your inner
I'm starting to think Jeffrey Epstein may have been a weird guy. I'm really getting this bad vibe off Jeffrey Epstein.
Top Gun, climb into the cockpit, and learn to fly an airplane. You can even practice saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking." The flight lasts 1 hour under the supervision of an FAA instructor, begins with a ground school lesson, and ends with a new perspective on...
So this is some video for Jeffrey Epstein's company, created by Nadia Marcinko, talking about... Nadia Marcinko is one of Epstein's top girls, talking about how you, like a flight company, allegedly.
What you were born to do. And remember Top Gun? Clearly your attractiveness increases with every flight under your belt. Just remember to wear your aviators and pick a cool call sign, Captain.
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective buying website for anything aviation. We offer deals on flight lessons, pilot accessories, fuel, FBO services, charter flights, and even small aircraft. Our deals are usually 50 to 90% off. That means whether you want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or just see more girls like me, Aviloop can...
We saw this. This is just unusual. This is just really, really, really bizarre. Hold on. So there's a video explaining what this is. Hold on, let's get into this. This is a video I know you wanted me to watch.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Let us talk for a second or two about Nadia Marcinko, a.k.a. Nadia Marcinkova. Obviously, she was somebody who classifies herself as both a victim and also somebody who did some very bad things with Jeffrey Epstein. And she has been missing for quite some time. Probably the last year and a half. She has not been seen at her home.
By the way, there's literally this guy in here, Richard Kahn, talking about how money needs to be given to Nadia, how money has to be sent to Nadia, and that they owe money.
In New York's Upper East Side. Now, this is because of the public release of Epstein's files back in 2024. And those documents had previously been sealed and revealed details, obviously, about high-profile figures, which we've talked about on here, whether it's Prince Andrew or David Copperfield, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton. And all of those parties have vehemently denied having knowledge of Epstein's criminal activities or participating in any wrongdoing. Nadia is a model-turned-pilot believed to have been brought to the U.S. from Slovakia by Jeffrey Epstein back in about 2001. She is believed to have visited Epstein in the Florida jail more than 70 times while he was locked up.
Yeah, you know Jeffrey Epstein was allowed to have sex with women when he was in prison. That is how sweet his deal was. Like, that he was allowed to, like, just bring women into his cell, which it sounds insane for someone convicted of, you know, fucking pedophilia.
She's also known as Global Girl, and she reportedly flew on Epstein's private jet. Now, it's not known whether or not she ever piloted the plane. She does have aviation credentials, and I'm going to put those in quotes, aviation. She is reported to be the CEO of Aviloop, LLC, which offers a wide range of services designed to accelerate the growth of brands in the aviation industry. The firm, until recently, was listed as being based at a New York building owned by Epstein's brother Mark. Now let's take a look at some of Aviloop.
She kept sending him videos that were recorded, like, she was one of the people, like, just look at this one. Office door panels recorded on a flip video camcorder.
Recruitment videos. This first one is from someone who identifies herself as Claire. Take a look.
Hi, welcome to Classic Flight Training on Aviloop.com. My name is Claire.
We just watched
After
this.
watching that, I want to remind you that the Slovakian colors are not blue and white. The girls in these videos, and there are 4 videos, 3 girls, are very young. Nadia calls it a feminist company, but Avi is a masculine word. Outside of the abbreviation for aviation, it's Hebrew for highest father, as in God. If you watch the video again, you'll hear things like, for up to 90% off. See more girls like me.
Yeah, that stuff is all really, really, really strange. Talking about how you can get 90% off, how you can see more girls like her. Does feel weird for, like, an aviation deal company, right? What on earth is this?
Ongoing steep discount hooks suggest money was made on the back end. It sounds as if this was something that Epstein was running prior to him being arrested again in 2019. Notice how she's selling the Top Gun experience. And then take a look at this Jeffrey Epstein photo from The Sun in 1995 from Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday party. Ghislaine Maxwell was photographed entering the party with Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey is wearing, like I said, this Navy SEAL, Navy out.
Why did Jeffrey Epstein fucking have that? Where did he get those models? The medals, sorry.
Fit. Ghislaine was wearing a dark, long military-style nautical blazer that she paired with a skirt. And yes, that is Harvey Weinstein standing next to Jeffrey Epstein. And Nadia currently sells aviation apparel with similar designs. Ornate military epaulette shoulder dressing with cords and tassels. Get in the loop. Pitch phrase pairs with Jeffrey Epstein's infinity loop signature and how he was infinite possibilities. Yes, that is a male voice moaning in the background as the brunette deal attendant says you can meet more girls like her. Nadia did not edit it out. And it appears that Nadia has lost the login or never had it for the YouTube account.
It's really, really unusual stuff. It's a fake outfit. Yeah, I'm sure it is, but, like, still, it's weird to be wearing this. Just really unusual.
This appears, Aviloop appears to be an extension of Jeffrey Epstein, at least up until a certain point. It is bizarrely subliminal. It is extremely well thought out.
But who is this? Who is this for? Like, just posting this on YouTube? Oh my god, they've accidentally failed to redact her email, by the way. Is it possible to do the wire today? Can you wire Nadia 14k today? Why is he getting money to these people? 14,000? It's weird.
It all continues to add up. Now, I want to take you down a rabbit hole. Not too big of a rabbit hole, but a rabbit hole nonetheless. This second video is from a woman who identifies herself as Ashley. Take a look.
Hi, welcome to Cole's Flight School on avaloop.com. My name is Ashley and I'm your jail attendant. Anyone who claims that humans were not meant to fly never experienced the thrill of their own successful landing.
Did Jeffrey Epstein have like a women flying kink? Because Ghislaine Maxwell could fly as well, right?
If you've been bitten by the flying bug and you want to add multi-engine to your pretty green license, this is your opportunity.
That's weird. There is a dog sound in the background, which is just, it feels weird to record these alleged promotional videos for your YouTube channel and then have a dog there. Just like whimpering in the background.
50% off. You don't see that very often. Today's deal includes all the necessary ground school and 15 hours of multi-engine flight training. Get ready to fly big boy airplanes. To purchase this deal, you must hold at least a private pilot license and a current medical certificate. Don't miss out and click on that big blue button. You know you want to.
Now, that video is very similar to the video that we watched from Claire. But Ashley, look at her again. Ashley could be, maybe, a woman by the name of Ashley Martinez. Ashley Martinez went missing in 2004 when she was 15 years old. These videos appear to have been made in 2012, so that would have made her 23. When I look at it, and maybe it's, a confirmation bias kind of thing. But when I look at it, it does look very similar to how bias kind of similar. But when I look at it,
I don't know. I can't tell. The video's too grainy, but I don't fucking know. That is
maybe it's a confirmation bias kind of thing. But when I look at it, it does look very similar to how Ashley looked. They've done kind of how Ashley would look now. And it's different. But is this person in this video, do we think that she's 23 years old? Is it Ashley Martinez? Like I said, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. It could be confirmation bias, but when you take a look at the video of Ashley, and then you take a look at the pictures of what Ashley looked like when she disappeared when she was 15, is not that far off. This is not somebody who disappeared when she was 5.
Yeah, this is definitely high speculation, but I don't know. It's hard to tell because of the quality of the video.
We're trying to say, oh, well, could be the person when she's 23. This person disappeared when she was 15 years old. Could this be the same person? Like I said, they do look very, very much alike. Nadia, as the story goes, that she was bought by Jeffrey Epstein. Her parents sold her to Jeffrey Epstein. So then, okay, well, we have this missing person, Ashley Martinez. According to Nadia, Avaloop was founded because her career evolved from marketing through high fashion modeling to aviation. And when she was ready for, quote unquote, longer runways, she became an aerobatic pilot, licensed flight instructor, and airline transport pilot, rated on multiple.
What the fuck? Look at some of this. I hear you are looking for a gill hanger in New York area. I will have everyone at Avaloop make calls to try get one for you. Look at what he sent before, like a load of links about how a memory stick can double as a vibrator.
Gulfstreaming Boeing aircraft. And during her career in aviation, she developed a thorough understanding of the industry and its demands. And that she created Avaloop in 2011. One of the things that they'll do is like I said, they design these pilot epaulets, much the same as this ornament kind of thing that Jeffrey Epstein was wearing. But one of the other things is that they offer the services, contract services of aviation professionals. And their quote on the website is, "We will use our network to match our clients with qualified pilots to fly their aircraft." Okay, that seems legit. Or other aviation professionals, including conference booth or social media influencers for their marketing needs.
It's just really unusual. It's just like really, really, really strange.
Okay, what kind of people are we providing for conference booth or social media influencers? And then they also have team building events. But for the team building events, despite the fact that it's supposed to be, it's all about aircraft and flying and things like that, they use
There are seemingly references to flying in Jeffrey Epstein's... I think it was being sent to Avaloop. I'll check I Fly tomorrow. I haven't heard from Rich. Just need to make sure to show in the account because I filed paperwork. I'll need to support with printed statements tomorrow. Flying tonight. Really unusual.
Photo of... She's not half naked, but it's a model. And I'm going to try and post the photo. It's in a kind of system that won't let me do it very easily, but it doesn't really seem like they're selling aviation services, more like they're selling something else. Is that what those videos are all about? We shall see.
Look at this one. Wait. Look at this one. Prince Andrew will once again start the onslaught. Why? What are they looking for now? I'm launching Aviloop tomorrow. What does this mean? You are not mentioned at all. Have no worry. Andrew stepped down from his government role. I saw that yesterday, but there will be more?
All right, you guys. I will talk to you later.
I mean, interesting video. Like, I guess a lot of this was made a long time before you could have found out stuff like that, but I don't know, it feels really odd. What the fuck? Look at this one. Did you get my email? Would you prefer I call to ask questions? I'm working with Rich, but today you will receive 10K to hire a lawyer. We need to speak. Confirming 10K to Avaloop. Yes. Why? Who's hiring a lawyer? What's going on? It's really unusual shit. Like, making sense of this stuff is really hard because, there should just be a whole thing about Avaloop put together. Okay, so here's a bank statement from Avaloop. It's hard to read. Okay. I don't know. Bizarre. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Here's a link to the video if anyone wants to check it out. I don't really know what to say. It's just odd that that's on YouTube, that's like a thing that you can just fucking see. Like some Epstein-related company that so many years later you would find all of this stuff on about how Prince Onslaught... Hold on. Wait. Look at this. Prince Andrew will once again start the onslaught, and then Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. By the way, Aaron attempted to blackmail me. I do not speak to him. I hope he doesn't talk. I had to find a new lawyer. I don't know, bro. Is Ghislaine Maxwell being the person? Yeah, she really does look like that photo from the case. Hold on. Also, look. They redacted Aviloop in this one by mistake. This is the problem. There is the same email with different redactions. I just showed you an email where this isn't redacted, and then here's one where it is. Who's Aaron, and why did they try and blackmail? Look at this. Wait. Look at this one as well. Prince Andrew will once again start the onslaught. Happy anniversary. It was yesterday. Oh, I thought it was the 22nd. Who is this? Why is this all redacted? This is Jeffrey Epstein talking about blackmail and his company, his weird company, and I don't know. I'm sorry, this is so weird. What are they talking about? The onslaught. And then look at this version. So this is, by the way, redacted. So we're not meant to know Aaron's name. Attempted to blackmail me. I do not speak to him. I hope he doesn't talk. I'm sorry, they are all the same. I hope this one works for you. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, who is Aaron? Why is it blackmailed one time? And then, actually, here's the same email, mistakenly unredacted. And then here we go. I'm sorry, they are all the same. This is also a version that has Jeffrey Epstein's emails redacted, and then here's a different version that doesn't. It's okay, I've had good training to handle it. What is this? What is this all about? What is this? I don't understand. I've had good training to handle it. What onslaught will he start? What onslaught did they manage to hide? What does this all mean? Okay, then here's another. He loved the word... I think I'm inclined to send this whole thing to you. What's your feeling? Do you want quotes, Mort, Gate, etc.? At this point, I don't really think so. Just need to mention them in context with you at the house, etc. Having them actually with you is a stronger statement than a prepared quote, which always sound forced and milquetoast. That's also a misspelling. I don't know why that hasn't triggered the thing. I've made the comparison to Marquis de Sade, but de Sade being a representative of the prior feudal system, while these represent capitalism. Yeah, I mean... I don't know enough about Marquis de Sade, but yeah, I mean, I feel like there's comparisons to be made between him and Jeffrey Epstein. All of this stuff is so weird. Thanks for the 5,500 Chilean pesos. I don't know why it didn't trigger the donation thing, though. I'm really unsure as to why. Time to speak. Calling now. Reputation since leavening before this recent onslaught. Dershowitz Politico out of the blue. After 5 years of peace since jail release. De Sade? Desaad? Desaad, sorry, excuse me. It's Marquis Desaad, isn't it? He was constantly messaging people about this onslaught. Can you make the intro? Capable and experienced, calm, was Clinton press secretary. Can you make the intro, or should I ask Kathy? What the fuck? But so preposterous that it becomes more easily seen as farce. Aaron's submarine in Manhattan rejected arguments by Epstein's personal lawyer. What the fuck? This is so odd. Like, just trying to piece together this stuff requires years of knowledge about who these people are. I'm just checking if there's any more onslaught stuff. There's a lot of Israeli onslaught here. Oh, God. Oh, fucking hell. Enjoyed the fundraiser stream. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. It was a great stream, I thought. Okay, right. We're gonna move on to Bill Gates, because Bill Gates has come out to defend himself.
Brett and I, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
Part of that issue of trust brings me to Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know what your relationship with him was.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. So over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health.
Bill Gates is crazy looking, by the way. Very unusual. I mean, he's old, so maybe that's it, but also very creepy.
In retrospect, that was a dead end. And
I love how all of these people, apparently everyone who knew Jeffrey Epstein just made some kind of mistake.
I've said many times, but I'll say again, I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them in the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, because I don't know about that.
What his thinking was there. Was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret, and
it's weird. Isn't it funny how everyone regrets having met Jeffrey Epstein? It's so odd, isn't it?
Apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that
I'm really interested that everyone says the same thing.
He has sent, and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so,
the thing is there are there are old people talking about this.
The more that comes out, the more clear it'll be.
It is utterly ridiculous. Maybe my mistake is that I'm too trusting. Yeah, it seems actually, Thomas, that every single billionaire, every single elite is somehow just really trusting. That they all just made a mistake and all for some reason trusted Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. It seems to be a lot of mistakes.
That, although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
So there's a video you wanted me to watch.
It was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general.
Well, he's dead, so you were hoping that nothing more came out, that the rich and powerful around you prevented any of this from coming out.
You always have to be careful. And I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy, very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
Now, this has been made even more interesting by a video of Melinda Gates.
I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment.
Do you also remember how Melinda Gates was portrayed as like this example of women stealing money from their amazingly successful man that was Bill Gates, and that she just wanted to take money away from him? No, she got the bag in and she got away from this creep. So, interesting how she was portrayed at the time.
Ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files. And
Yep.
there are a new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
Well, let me say this. I think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. But I have moved on from that.
It's so like bizarre, because she's like, these are really painful times of my marriage. It's just I don't know. I don't know. This doesn't really feel like someone who doesn't at all believe that there's merit to these allegations against Bill Gates, or has known this for a while.
I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for you.
I mean, I think the points that people are making, talking about, okay, well, she was part of the empire of him becoming incredibly rich, are well worth talking about. But this video is still interesting to watch. And it is interesting how he was treated as like this kind of really good God moral guy who was just robbed by his ex-wife.
Even my ex-husband, they need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck that was there.
I have to put more words to the muck for context for our listeners. The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness.
Bro, this is the difference between, once again, CoffeeZilla's reporting of pulling up all of this stuff that was information that was online about what was happening and all of these things going on, and why it was important to bring that up, and the way in which she was so strongly against her husband and his relationship with Epstein. And now when we listen to her... By the way, someone asked how you become a constituent. It's just like a little joke thing. It's if you become a member, you don't have to. It's not an obligation. You just get access to some cool emojis.
Unbelievable sadness, right?
And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's
interesting she doesn't deny it or say she hadn't heard that before. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up in front of microphones in D.C.
It is utterly ridiculous.
What they went through is just unimaginable, I think.
Terra Trove Tales, thank you for the gifted. And Dosari, enjoy your membership. Thank you for the support as always, Tara. Great to see you. And Dasari, enjoy the membership. I saw you just said hey, so nice. Bear in mind, this woman has probably signed an NDA as part of her divorce. Yeah, exactly. And I think also, like, repeating an allegation like that when she may not have direct proof, even though it could have well happened, she may have, yeah. Enjoy your new access to emojis. What's it called? But there are also some bizarre... We'll watch an old TrueAnon clip talking about this. I'm sorry it's become an Epstein-focused episode again. It's hard not to talk about this when it's like... I do think that this is a significant story, and wanting to find out more about this is important. But let's have a look at this. So here's Barry Josephine, who I don't know who it is, saying, her full name again...
It is utterly ridiculous.
Is she in New York for a few weeks? And sorry, please, if you have please have your office forward me her mum's contact details again. A friend is shooting a feature in New York, and I'll try to get her in. Forward your niece. Then this is something that's not there. Then this is this is someone sending to Jeffrey Epstein. I assume once again Barry Josephine, who is a Josephine Entertainment. Cool, I'm excited. Also, I've been thinking a lot about the question that you asked Bill Gates. How do you get rid of poor people as a whole? And I have an answer/comment regarding that for you. When can I call you today to discuss this? I mean, first of all, this is yet more indication that Epstein was an idiot asking how do we get rid of poor people. Amazing, because obviously in capitalism it requires like a large poor class to be used for, work when they are needed, basically, and dismissed when they are no longer needed to serve the interests of capital. But it's just like, this guy was an idiot, but also this is incredibly creepy. She's just a girl, Chris. Don't be a misogynist. Yeah, I apologize. Thanks for the donation, Thomas. I'll be more mindful when talking about billionaire Melinda Gates. Ugh. They're so evil and so stupid. Indeed. They're talking about enriching the masses, right? Right? Yeah. Ugh. I assume, by the way, that this is just... Wait, this is actually Epstein's niece who was trying to get work? Does his brother, Mark, have kids? I don't know. But let's listen to an old TrueAnon clip talking about Bill Gates.
So one of the main things that we talked about was a little fucking nerd named Bill Gates. You heard of this guy? Anybody heard of him? Bill Gates? So a new Wall Street Journal article came out. You know how there's been those that series basically of articles that they have.
Yeah, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal have basically spent a lot of time filing a lot of FOIAs to get a lot of documents out of the Virgin Islands based on a ton of the stuff they've been filing in their lawsuit.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, so I think, best guess is they've been doing FOIA suits against the motherfucking Virgin Islands and been getting this stuff this way. I know somebody who has the documents, and I know you might be listening to this episode, and I know you didn't...
Yeah, notice how all creepy people give to charity to wash their crimes. How to get rid of poverty sounds like eugenics or Soylent Green. Yep, I mean, how are these people... Whatever these people were cooking up to get away, to get rid of poverty was interesting. And I assume who sent that was someone called Barry Josephine?
respond to my text messages, but you can't escape me. I'm talking directly to you. You know who you are. Send me the documents. But Bill Gates, one of the hottest fucking studs. Liz, let me ask you this, a little fresh and fit moment. Bill Gates, 1 to 10.
Sorry, what's the good side and what's the bad side?
1 to 10. I'm just asking you.
He is just a no thank you from me.
A no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he's a 7.5.
He has that, like, you hit a certain age and your skin starts to, like, go transparent.
So true.
He has that, and yeah, very ready.
He's ready.
Ready, but clear skin. But not clear of acne, as in, like, see-through.
So you know Gollum, right?
Yeah.
The fucked up.
The little guy.
He's like kind of an evil ape. Gollum at one point was a kind of hobbit. I don't know if you're familiar with the back
In my understanding, he wasn't just a kind of hobbit. He was a hobbit.
story of Gollum.
Zero, absolutely not.
All good. You know what I'm talking about, Young Chomsky. Gollum was at one point was a kind of hobbit. I don't know what kind of hobbit, but I do know this. I've always been curious of what Gollum might have looked like before he became a fucked up sewer creature. I believe Bill Gates belongs to that same race of hobbit. You know what I mean? Like, he's a diminutive man who
But isn't he very big?
He doesn't appear that way to me in my mental space.
In your memory of him.
But I don't think he is that big. No, I think he's kind of
I thought he was
shriveled.
tall.
I don't know if he is. He reads not tall.
How tall is Bill Gates? He is a very strange-looking individual, I will say. I wonder what he looked like young. Bill Gates young. He looked strange when he was young as well. He looked like the kind of guy who's always on the computer. He was an angry office bully, apparently, according to Gentleman's Quarterly.
To me, but I mean, there's no way he's like over
5'10".
5'6". Oh, you think that's tall?
No,
think that's
I
tall?
thought.
You think 5'10" is tall?
No, I thought he was like 6'4".
You thought Bill Gates was 6'4"?
Yeah, but that he had really bad posture because he is always like rounded over because he is computer man.
He's computer man.
He's for his entire life he's got tech neck.
He's got
his
tech
whole
neck.
life. He's got tech spine.
So, Bill Gates, unlike many of you listening to this podcast, has been cheating on his wife. Well, ex-wife now. So, Bill Gates, it's pretty clear, I think, if you read between the lines and then also read the lines themselves, that Bill Gates was and I'll say this again, I've said this many times on the podcast, he was a fucking...
Wait, it's a water hobbit. That's the kind of thing that I used to like, when I was a lot younger, me and my sister used to love asking my dad about. We'd be like, oh, who's the, what's this thing in Lord of the Rings? Because he used to love them.
Coxman. He was going... Well, don't shake your head like that at me. He was. That's the literal definition.
I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking my head at him.
A philanderer.
He's
so
disgusto.
He was stepping out on his wife with a young Russian bridge player named Mila Antonova.
Do you know how to play bridge?
I do.
By the way, there are also previous mentions of Jeffrey Epstein having STIs himself. So... I don't know. Pretty interesting.
Do not.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's the other the game people play? Castaneda? Canasta.
I think bridge is having a big resurgence, though, and it has been for a while. But.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not with me. But with Bill Gates, he's been an avid bridge player.
Yeah, also crazy that we now have the detail that allegedly he was having like bridge Adderall out bridge sessions.
Since childhood, he met Mila Antonova at some kind of bridge tournament. There is video. This is, you can just Google Mila Antonova, Bill Gates. You can fucking find it. I'm not linking that shit for you. They're very flirty. She's like, oh, I'm kicking his leg under the table. She's in her mid-20s when they meet. He's in his mid-50s. Problematic age gap. And they have some kind of affair. We do not have a lot of insight into what that affair looks like. That affair was confirmed, basically, by Bill Gates's people. The article is very scant on details about exactly how long that lasted, etc. But a few years after this affair at least started, she was introduced to one Jeffrey Epstein, convicted pedophile, by a guy named Boris Nikolic.
We have not talked about enough.
So she knew. So already this Boris Nikolic, Who is Boris Nikolic?
It is utterly ridiculous.
The Hobbit types are Harfoots, Stores, and Fallowhide. And yes, I have kissed a woman before. Thanks for the $5. Which was Gollum, though? We gotta know which was... Sorry, Smeagol, as someone pointed out.
A very long time.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about it quite a bit sort of at the beginning, but he's at the beginning of our show.
Yeah.
But he has understandably kept...
Yeah, being geeked up at the bridge tournament is really a life goal of mine.
A pretty low profile.
Which is admittedly very difficult when your name is Boris Nikolic.
Mm-hmm. But he was...
much easier if your name is just Ben Smith.
Bill Gates' science advisor, and also the executor to Jeffrey Epstein's estate.
Yes.
Oh.
Epstein, of course, was very, very close to many at the Gates Foundation, including...
It's pretty odd that it was just a couple of dinners that you regretted, when there are tons of photos of you and this Boris Nikolic guy together. I don't know. A bit of oddities there.
Melanie Walker, who's also a bigwig at the World Bank. He'd known her since the early 90s.
It's also kind of crazy that just with a bit of research you can find this out, but, apparently mainstream media just has to tell you, Bill Gates denies this, and that's all we get, and it's not like they provide us with any more information to think about this stuff.
When he approached her alongside one Donald J. Trump while she was sightseeing in New York City at the Plaza Hotel. She was close with Epstein and had his address listed as her address for like a decade, from like the 90s to 2000. Later, of course, married Steven Sinofsky, an executive at Microsoft. So we learn in that article, too, that Epstein and Gates met together with Norwegian officials.
Which, yes, there are officials from Norway. Something that I learned from reading this article.
Including one... Okay.
You got to do it. You started.
You can pronounce names any way you'd like.
Actually, can I do it?
Yeah.
Thorbjorn Jagland.
Thorbjorn Jagland, I assume.
Can I try mine? Little ping pong?
Yeah, Israel is investigating itself. Bill Gates has denied any wrongdoing and strongly regrets meeting Jeffrey Epstein ever.
Thorbjorn Jagland? Thorbjorn. You named your baby? You look at a baby and you're like, that's a Thorbjorn. He's the former prime minister of Norway. They meet at his house, a house he owns, rather, in France in 2013 to discuss a possible Nobel Peace Prize for one Bill Gates. They now claim, at least Gates' people do, that Epstein and Bill Gates met with these Norwegian officials in order to discuss the security situation in Afghanistan in relation to Gates' polio vaccine. My question here is, Liz, you are Bill Gates, like the famous rich guy, probably the most famous rich guy before, he probably still is the most famous rich guy, but Elon Musk kind of supplanted him in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Gates doesn't need an introduction from Jeffrey Epstein, right?
You'd think.
Norwegian officials?
Yeah, I don't really believe that.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they were doing at that villa in France. And anyways, fast forward to 2017, and Epstein sends a email to Bill Gates asking him to reimburse him because he had paid for the young Russian bridge player Mila Antinova's coding boot camp back in 2013. And Epstein was like, you got to pay me back.
Yeah, this guy, that was his MO. He's always paying for girls' tuition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of crazy. You can literally just read about him doing that. And yeah, I just wanted to react to this part because it's a good explanation. This is from 2023, May of 2023, I think. May 29th, it says here, 2023.
But Gates' people are claiming that it was an attempt at blackmail, which I think actually makes this story kind of important because this would be the first actual, literal, confirmed case of Jeffrey Epstein doing blackmail, specifically involving a young woman, although, of course, of age, a young woman and a prominent, powerful person like Bill Gates. And so I think it's actually pretty major in that sense. But by 2017, Epstein wasn't doing so hot, and Gates, I think, just did not respond.
Yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, that's obviously TrueAnon. But kind of crazy that you can see this from 2 years ago with 1,000 views, and they're just like they're speaking the truth. This is the truth nuke. This is a straight up truth nuke, and yet we're just meant to believe that because Bill Gates said nope, I regret meeting him, that's it. It's fucking insane. It's just unbelievable. Is that the final Epstein stuff? Okay, I'm quickly going to run for a pee, and then when I'm back, we're going to cover some different stuff that isn't Epstein. So, see you in like 2 minutes. Oh, I'm going to do BRB screen, and I'm going to do the... I'll just leave the BRB screen because I won't be long. I am back. You can't see me right now, but you will in a second. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing good. We didn't actually lose anyone, which is interesting. Is Chris an Epstein YouTuber now? At the moment, I've just been covering him because it's just like constant Epstein news. So, and there probably will be a lot of coverage of him over the next few weeks. I mean, this whole stream could be dedicated to him. Actually, I still need to do the was Epstein a Russian spy? Do you guys want that, or do you want something else? Let me know in chat. Hi, back. I'm Gatto. Amazing. Chat coup d'etat. Yeah. Take over. That's what's going to happen. Why no music? I just forgot to put it on, kind of, and I was like, oh, I'll be quick, so... don't need it on. Also, my shorts are digging in for some reason. I'm wearing fucking shorts even though it's cold as fuck because I just don't want to take them off. I didn't hear a sink running. Well, you didn't hear the sink running. What can you do? Can we vote for the Bill Gates annonce? Do the Russian spy thing. The Quebec accent in the Epstein files. Keep going. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I know it's like a tough topic. I know it's pretty rough, but yeah. It's just, to me, it's just like this story that's so interesting. There's also something I quickly wanted to cover here, which is apparently an Epstein blackmail operation of some number that's a burner phone talking to Anil Ambani, who was a billionaire. He's an Indian businessman and chairman, this guy. Anil Ambani. He's quite an old gentleman. I believe he must be in his 70s. No, he's 66 if he's born in 59, apparently. But let's have a look into this quickly. Hello, can David Petraeus be ambassador to India? John Huntsman going to join Russia? I'll ask. I think unlikelier for the moment, as leaking is going to get the front burner. Huntsman or David? David. He's talking about David Petraeus, who was, in my understanding, a general and a head of the CIA. And Anil Ambani is texting whoever this is on a burner phone. John to Russia or China? So John Huntsman is going to be the, but Riva in 12 hours. Jaipur book. I wrote the letter for mother. This is in the Epstein files, by the way. Was told Russia, Jaipur, many books. Any particular aspect, food, living, architecture, will collect from you tomorrow. Maharaja, Holmes, what you mentioned. Woody Johnson, London, wife, my old assistant. If you want a private dinner with head of NATO, I will organise but not attend. Talk more in Paris. K. Woody Johnson, London. 4. Ambassador. 4. Woody Johnson, ambassador to London. Sorry, my shorthand is incomprehensible. K. Was told John for Russia is done. Yes, not a positive development. Most Russia will be done back channel. Was classmate at Wharton. No father and family for over 30 years. So, wait, I just want to check who Thomas Volshow reckons this is. Apparently this is Epstein pimping and... yeah, okay, apparently this is Epstein. Yes, father was great. Problem is that Donald didn't think he had the gall to deal with Russians. By the way, this seems like quite specific information about Donald Trump's, you know, his government. But I don't know if he was the ambassador, US ambassador to Iraq. I don't think he was the ambassador under Trump, Petraeus. I don't think he did become the ambassador, so clearly Epstein's information, that wasn't good. The pushback from Pentagon on agreements was huge. There is a Cold War mentality that I have no insight or opinions about, but accept the fact that Russia is seen to be untrustworthy, not my experience at all. The WikiLeaks CIA suggests that there are 0 exploits in the arsenal that are circulating without being turned over to companies. It is so wild. G. K. Am to India is key for me. Was Tellis your choice? No. Weak person. Ashley Tellis mixed up with agencies. Need a strong person like Petraeus to deal with neighbours, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. Tillerson is nominally in charge of search. Donald like Petraeus, but again, Pentagon wary. His use of tradecraft emails sticks in their craw. K, who do you suggest? A tall Swedish blonde woman to make it fun to visit. Arrange that. Is there an actress or model that respects your proclivity? I hope not Meryl Streep. I will be of no help. Better taste, my friend. Our next movie is with Scarlett Johansson. Phew, that was close. Why? I am glad you prefer young blondes to old ones.
It is utterly ridiculous.
I had some guests here with me, unusual tastes. We laughed for hours about what they liked as opposed to me. One of their women had almost as much hair on the face as Abe Lincoln. Ha ha ha. These are weird emails of him just talking about sending out a young Swedish billionaire to Anil Ambani. Speaking of the letter P, yeah, it might be the vibe. And Ethan declined Piers Morgan. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch that. It sounds really, really, really boring. Thank you for streaming. Darren, thank you for being here and supporting. Thank you everyone who can watch. Thank you everyone who, consistently is here, comments, and helps make streaming possible. Sorry, someone is claiming something here. Hold on 1 second. Someone is claiming that this is FBI. Date of birth. Called FBI National Threat Operation to report Donald Trump knew and funded underage sex parties at the Donald Trump golf course. By the way, sounds like 100% something he'd do. Redacted provided the following information. Redacted was recently interviewed by an FBI agent. However, he felt triggered as a victim and did not report all of the information. Redacted had recordings of Trump, Epstein, and Maxwell discussing marketing strategies for high-profile sex parties at the Trump golf course. However, Redacted mailed the recordings to a lawyer in the Cayman Islands. Redacted was part of the Sinaloa cartel and worked closely with Epstein and Maxwell. However, he was able to walk away from the cartel due to his status with Epstein and Maxwell. In the recordings, Trump stated he was aware of the underage sex parties and charged the house money of the golf course to fund the parties. Redacted witness Robin Lech strangle a young girl during one of these parties. He claims she is buried behind the 19th hole at Donald Trump golf course. Redacted is aware of 3 separate occasions in which girls were murdered and buried there. Redacted was told if he spoke about the incident he witnessed, he would end up in the hole as well. Redacted gave Maxwell the idea to put cameras in at the golf course to review the cartel members and to understand how to market the 12 to 14-year-old... Jesus Christ. That is repugnant. That is just disgusting. Ugh, God. Ugh. By the way, quickly, maybe this will just be another fucking Epstein stream. Oh, sorry, you shouldn't be able to see all of that. Hold on. I now need to hide my camera. Hold on. Because this is fucked up, which is annoying. I don't know why this is fucked up like that. Hold on. Excuse me. Check, it's extremely odd. A victim seeming to email someone. Yeah, I've seen that kind of stuff. It's fucking insane what was going on. Okay, so this is basically all of the... So a major scandal is going on in the UK right now involving Keir Starmer. Palantir has secured 24 distinct contacts with UK public institutions. However, when including contract extensions, amendments, and following healthcare and local governments, the overall value of these deals is around £910 million and full 1.5 billion partnership potential. Palantir's 24th contract with UK institutions was procured with Keir Starmer's backing. This is the most recent contract, and it is with Coventry City Council. Look at this. Fuck me. Hold on, I need to get this downloaded because that is not in a readable format. Okay, so these are Palantir's contracts. Just look at this. Foundry implementation, likely tendered, data-driven, G-Cloud framework, Transparency Limited, MOD, the police, Leicestershire Police, Defed Police, Defed Powers Police, Bedfordshire Police, Strategic AI Platforms, Foundry. Look at all of this. And this is significant, right, for a multitude of different reasons. But perhaps the most important reason is because, as Zach Polanski has noted, these were pushed by Peter Mandelson's firm. Now, Peter Mandelson is disgraced friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who sent him some very weird messages. And this is why, by the way, Polanski comes across as a decent politician. Just look at this.
There's other serious consequences. So Palantir, this is the spy tech firm, $260 million last month, the biggest defense budget in UK history. That was lobbied by Global Counsel, which was Peter Mandelson's lobbying group, alongside Wes Streeting, the health secretary, close friend of Peter Mandelson. I've written to the health secretary today to say we...
Like, isn't this just amazing? Jeffrey Epstein's protégés, his friends, his besties, are still influencing politics in the UK. It just never ends.
Have to break that contract. It also has crucial data on our healthcare system. So the idea that this defense company from the US has its fingerprints all over our healthcare system alongside Peter Mandelson is a whole range of questions that need answers urgently.
So Peter Mandelson's lobbying firm is helping a company which Jeffrey Epstein loved? I don't know. Hold on. Look at this as well. Look how bad things are getting in the UK. Do you want to see an insane video? Okay, right. Keir Starmer had to hide his hands because they're shaking so much. Just focus on Keir Starmer's hands.
But can I reassure the House, Mr.
Look at his hands, bro. It's game. It might be game over for Keir Starmer.
Let me reassure the House. The process for deciding what falls into those categories will not be a political process. It will be led by the Cabinet Secretary.
Look at that. Like, his hands are full on shaking. Bro knows what he's done.
Supported by government legal teams. But can I...
I think he may have to resign and he'll be replaced by Wes Streeting, who's actually an even closer associate of Peter Mandelson. But his defense has just been atrocious. Like, all the GB News dogs are getting on this, but listen to this.
Asking the Prime Minister something very specific, not about the generalities of the full extent. Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister?
Yes, it did. As a result...
How can you sit there and say that and be like, yeah, this guy should have had sway over British politics? You may not have known everything, but giving him a position like being the ambassador to, the US is insane. The fact that this was done, the fact that this is still ongoing is just unbelievable.
As a result, various questions were put to him. I intend to disclose to this House all of the national security, prejudice to international relations on one side. I want to make sure this House sees the full documentation, so it will see for itself the extent to which time and time again Mandelson completely misrepresented the extent of his relationship with Epstein and lied throughout the process.
By the way, also, I don't think Keir Starmer should bear all of the brunt of this, because I think it's the entire fucking Labour Party who over and over again enabled this man so they didn't end up with someone like, Jeremy Corbyn, who was moral, who was good, who was decent, and instead went for this odious individual that is Keir Rodney Starmer.
Including in response to the due diligence.
Also, slight relief here. There's a dog in Parliament, which is a service dog, and look how well behaved the dog is. That's a nice thing, even if his owner may be a dick.
Mr. Speaker, I think it is shocking what the Prime Minister has just said. How can he stand up there saying that he knew, but he just asked Peter Mandelson if the security vetting was true or false? This is a man who had been sacked from cabinet twice already for unethical behaviour. That is absolutely shocking.
It's quite something that this guy is back in power, that he is just still around, that Mandelson's now gone, by the way, and I think he probably will be arrested. Probably will face some kind of consequence. But I do have to show you something amazing. So the UK has this politician who you may not be aware of. His name's Rupert Lowe. He's like an omega racist who is loved by racists on Twitter, and Elon Musk constantly promotes this guy. You will not believe what this guy said in Parliament yesterday. It is actually golden.
Listening to the debate, it makes me reflect on the importance of parts of our Constitution which give us freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Two incredibly important things, and I think we all owe a great vote of thanks and gratitude to Elon Musk.
Golden. This guy gets up in Parliament to be like, I think we should all thank Elon Musk. Thank Elon Musk for fucking what, mate?
And X, who has played his part in exposing a great deal of this.
It's just so outrageous.
Of this evil.
How can you get up and do this? It is unbelievable. But I guess when you owe your entire career and your feeling of political prominence to just this person on the internet, Elon Musk, who's bigged up your Twitter account, and that's the only reason that you feel who you are, that you get to interact with racist degenerates on this platform who love your shitty content of going, I hate the grooming gangs, but also I love Elon Musk, who was in the files and asking about the best parties to go to. It's just like, oh, come on, bro. Don't worry, the Keir Starmer self-flagellation, humiliation game is still ongoing.
Let me be clear, no one is above accountability. And no one, however well-connected, however experienced, however senior, should hold public office if they cannot meet the basic test of honesty. I also want to address the publication of the information Mandelson provided during the appointment process.
Do you know Mandelson got a Peter Mandelson BBC interview? So Peter Mandelson got a softball BBC interview not even that long ago. Like, So 3 weeks ago, Peter Mandelson had an interview with BBC Politics, right? Okay, Lord Mandelson says Jeffrey Epstein was a mistake. You will never guess how long it takes them to start talking about Epstein. The first mention of Epstein in their video is in a 30-minute video is over halfway into the video.
I understand the strength of public feeling. I share the anger that people feel when powerful individuals appear to escape scrutiny. And I want to be able to release those documents as quickly.
Yeah. That is exactly what I was thinking of, Sarah, which is obviously Israel is above accountability, and anyone who has a relationship with Israel in any capacity is above any accountability. Also, I don't like the whole Keir Starmer Savile stuff. I don't find it that convincing, because there are politicians who fucking loved Savile, most notably Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher spent Christmas with Jimmy Savile. She loved Jimmy Savile, and the royals were very close with Jimmy Savile, especially Prince Charles. Savile used to write the royal the speeches.
As possible. I wanted to release them yesterday, in fact, and to talk about them at Prime Minister's questions. But the police have advised that releasing certain information now could risk prejudicing a future investigation or legal process. And
how is the guy not already in prison, by the way, or just like in jail, sorry?
However frustrating from my personal point of view that is, and it is, I will not take any step, however politically tempting, however popular, that risks justice for victims.
BBC, have you also seen what it says there? BBC Verify have found indecent images of, nude images of victims that are still open in the files.
Convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
So wait, I just want to show you, because this is not a Starmer problem, by the way.
And I think Iran is another one coming up. It's American heft that makes the difference.
Now, you lost your job as ambassador because of your friendship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. You've said many times you regret that you were close to him. But there's a question many people have. It was one thing to be friends with him in the early 2000s, quite another to keep your friendship going with him when it was clear and he had a conviction for abusing young women. Why did you stick with him?
Well, it was a most terrible mistake.
I love it again. Everyone just kept making this mistake. It's really, really weird. I don't really get it how everyone can just make the same kind of mistake.
On my part. I believed the story he told in 2008 in his first indictment in Florida. I accepted his story, and I wish I hadn't. I gave my support to somebody because I believed what he was telling me, and it was misplaced loyalty.
By the way, this guy 100% knew. He was just getting paid off. Read this one. Epstein sent thousands of pounds to Lord Mandelson. I can't believe he's still called Lord. Ronaldo, his husband, Ronaldo Sue Avia da Silva, according to emails published by the US Department of Justice raising fresh questions about the friendship between the disgraced financier and the former UK ambassador to Washington. The emails published on Friday show da Silva funding Epstein, emailing Epstein in 2009, asking for £10,000 to fund an osteopathy course and other related expenses. I will wire your loan amount immediately, Epstein replied that day. A few days later, Da Silva sent Epstein an email saying, "Thank you for the money which arrived in my account this morning." In one email released by the DOJ, Epstein forwarded Mandelson a discussion of fees for Da Silva's osteopathy course. 3 minutes later, Epstein received a reply from a redacted sender saying, "So what's my share of the bounty then?" Epstein responded, "Was that a misspell for booty?" In April 2010, Da Silva messaged Epstein again, sharing the bank details. The emails show Epstein forwarded the email to his accountant, adding, "Send $13,000. In subsequent correspondence, Epstein instructs his accountant to send $2,000 per month to Ronaldo. His accountant, Rich Khan, asks if this is in addition to $13,000 and to confirm the currency is US dollars. Epstein replies that after rethinking, send $4,000 only. In a September 2010 email, Epstein advised Mandelson in jest to move to China for 2 years. The reply the same day said, and meet a nice rich Chinaman and and live happily ever after. Talking of which, have you permanently stopped the Ronaldo sub? I may have to put him out to work in the streets. Pretty odd thing to say to someone. I don't know.
But I just have to say this to you. While it's had the most calamitous consequences for me, and I regret ever having been introduced to him in the first place. I regret continuing a friendship with him. The crux of this is not me. The crux of this is not the friendship I had 25 years ago with Jeffrey Epstein.
It most definitely is the crux. Can you believe he got a softball interview like this where they didn't interrupt and say something like, you're making yourself the victim?
The crux of this is that so many hundreds of young women were completely trapped, powerless in a system that did not listen to what they had to say. I didn't hear their voices. Other people didn't hear their voices. They were disempowered within that system.
You described him, though, as your best pal. We've all seen the pictures of you relaxing with him on holiday in a bathrobe. During the time you spent with him, did you ever, at any point, see or hear anything that gave you any cause for concern? Anything whatsoever?
Look, I was at the edge of this man's life.
You described him as your best pal.
Yeah. And they were awful.
You described him as your best pal? Yeah. I don't know at this point why he wasn't just like, yeah, like, I did all this and this is terrible and I need to leave public life. But no, he continued lying and lying and lying and lying and lying and lying and lying.
Full toe-curling messages and emails that were published. And they're very embarrassing and it just make me distraught every time I hear them. But I have to say to you...
Outrageous! I was distraught by those emails. I was distraught by them. Oh, I couldn't believe I kept talking to Jeffrey. I loved him so much.
And I can say this absolutely, I can say it to you categorically. I never saw anything in his life, when I was with him, when I was in his homes, that would give me any reason to suspect.
Why did you keep sending him weird sexual emails as well? I don't know.
What this evil monster was doing in preying on these young women. Now, do you really think that if I knew what was going on and what he was doing with and to these vulnerable young women, that I'd have just sat back, ignored it, and moved on and said, okay, that's his life, he can get on with it. Do you think I would have done that? Do you think...
Do you know what he said? Do you know what this guy said? This is unbelievable. Now we have, obviously there wasn't access to this stuff. Listen to this. Bold moves needed for September, have nothing to lose. And here's Peter Mandelson referring to Jeffrey Epstein being released from prison as Liberation Day. And then here's another where, how shall we celebrate, from Mandelson? With grace and modesty, those are the names of two strippers. And then this is what he says to him, how is Freedom feeling? And Epstein responds, she feels fresh, firm, and creamy. Mandelson responds, naughty boy.
I think I'd have written emails like that if I had had any one iota of knowledge or suspicion of what he was doing. I certainly would not.
But you did have the knowledge that he had a conviction.
Yes, and I believed...
He had a conviction for abusing
and I believed,
women.
And I believed his story.
Over a court.
And I believed I believed his story and that of his lawyer, who spent a lot of time trying to persuade me of this, because I did go into it, that he had been falsely criminalised in his contact with these young women. Now, I wish I had not believed that story, I wish I had been more skeptical. I wish I had been more questioning.
Wait, I thought women didn't get listened to and that really upset you. Oh, Peter Mandelson.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Worked entirely to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. This guy hated Jeremy Corbyn because Jeremy Corbyn was apparently anti-Semitic, because Jeremy Corbyn was terrible for the Labour Party. And yeah, same people who wanted to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn.
But I'm afraid I believed a
Just unbelievable. Thanks for the donation, Thomas. Thanks for your support as always.
story. I believed a friend. I placed mistaken loyalty.
Peter will be happy to know, though, that Jeffrey Epstein could possibly be alive, according to brilliant reporting from P-Rat Nation. Maybe Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. In the Epstein files, there is a receipt from YouTube where his username is LittlestJeff1. If you search up this account on Fortnite Tracker, you can see there is an account with that name, and the Epstein files show he purchased V-Bucks. His profile shows he is ranked Silver 1 in Chapter 5, Season 1, which was after his death. Who knew they would have caught Littlest Jeff on Fortnite? He bought the V-Bucks. Peter's going to be happy. Peter's going to find out that Jeffrey has got ranked silver. He'll also be happy, not just because Jeffrey is still alive, but also who wouldn't be happy that Jeffrey got Silver 1 on Fortnite Season 5? And also, he's definitely not alive. There are fucking photos of his dead body.
In place of the
Maybe they're fake, though.
skepticism that I should have shown, and I deeply, deeply regret it.
You made clear, though, at the time also, you made clear when this story was running very hard, that as a gay man, you had never been offered any kind of sexual favour. There were never any conversations at all.
Possibly some people will think because that I'm a gay man, I was sort of insensitized, or I wasn't attuned to what was going on. I don't really accept that. I think the issue is that because I was a gay man in his circle, I was kept separate from what he was doing in the sexual side.
Oh, this is the... I know we reacted to this the other day. I can't get over this defense. I can't get over this defense of just, well, I was gay, so who knew? I didn't know anything.
Of his life. I mean, he in a sense had three buckets of people in his life: the business and the financial, the political and the academic, and
never the twain shall meet.
And then what he was doing with young women. It's possible that some people crossed over, but I didn't, and I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
But what did you think all the young women on the
What? Why didn't he... Surely you must have pushed back.
island or on the plains were there for? What did you think they were doing?
When I spent on one occasion...
Yeah, I've heard that gay people are totally unaware of anything that straight people do at all, ever.
2 nights, I think, or 3 nights on the island. The only other people there were 2 middle-aged housekeepers.
So it was that separate for you?
Epstein was never there. Epstein was never there. I think Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice, came for a night, but there were no girls on
I like how you call her his accomplice. Bro, you were friends with them.
that island when I was there. That whether on the island or in New York, or there was another occasion, I stayed at a ranch in New Mexico. Again, the only people were there were the housekeepers. Never were there any young women or girls or people that were he was preying on or engaging with in that sort of ghastly predatory way.
Do you want to take this chance to apologise to his victims for your association with him, which went years beyond his original conviction?
I want to apologise to those women.
Sorry, I've just seen a bizarre email in the Epstein files. I searched gay, and this is the first thing that came up. Hi kids, never in my life did I think academia would be this gay. I'm a minority, not being a gay Jewish person. I'm wondering if Redacted's athletics department is more for the staff than the students. When staff isn't too hungover, some of them are out there at 6 a.m. doing boot camp in 37 degrees heat. Personal training and early morning runs are in full gear. It will be a tough call. We'll have more students and staff/faculty in jail at any given time. The students have their raging hormones, but if you're 30 to 50 years old, you sure know how to be bad and party like a rock star. Things may not be illegal in New York, may be very illegal in Redacted. Add that to being a gay Jew during Ramadan, then you're in trouble. Since my boss is MIA another 10 days, I'm really bored. How much Facebooking can one do? Sending out my application to open an offshore account for my untaxed money. It feels very James Bond. What?
For a system that refused to hear their voices and did not give them the protection they were entitled to expect.
You apologise for your association with him after his conviction.
That system gave him protection and not them. If I had known, if I was in any way complicit or culpable, of course I would apologise.
But you won't
for it.
For your association with him after his conviction.
But I was not culpable. I was not knowledgeable.
Actually insane that this exists. We've seen enough of Peter Mandelson, but I don't know. People have been saying that it's the end for Starmer, but I don't know. People have survived more, but one has to hope that he does quit. But simultaneously, it's so funny because you have people who are like calling out Starmer, but then defend Trump, and Trump's association with Epstein is like grotesque, and we know facts about it. Like we know as many facts as we do about Mandelson's, but of course with Trump, it's like, oh, he wasn't friends with him after he got convicted. Bro, what do you think he was doing when he wasn't convicted? I don't know. Starmer approval rating. Hold on. I was trying to see if people were talking about his approval rating being incredibly low, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just insane that this is the point we've reached. Oh, fuck, why is it doing that? Sorry. I've just accidentally showed you my thing again. Hold on, let me just hide my screen and see why this isn't doing this. Oh, fuck, that's not good. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. Hold on, now let me close this and do this again. Okay, I fixed the problem. Okay, right. We are now gonna do... Oh, we'll do the... I might save the Russia stuff for tomorrow and do the Was Epstein a Russian spy tomorrow. Actually, it's the title thing. I should probably do that over the other stuff. So, okay, you can have Was Epstein a Russian spy now. Let's pull this up. So this is mostly from British media working tirelessly. And as Chris Kunzler, citizen journalist, great young citizen journalist, by the way, one of the top young citizen journalists in the UK, if I do say so myself, who's doing work that literally no one else is, found this video of newly released voice recording appears to show Jeffrey Epstein advising an unknown person on how to approach Russian President Vladimir Putin. Any appearance in the Epstein files does not imply wrongdoing. By the way, they keep putting this under everything. And so the unknown person in this video is categorically, it's actually been community noted now. It should source Chris Kunzler because he's the best source on this. Brilliant young citizen journalist, as people have said. He's a young citizen journalist. Chris K. Middle East. Royal Air Force, Imperial Army ass motherfucker. Get crusty lips. I'm from Iran. The unknown person in this video is Ehud Barak, then Israeli Prime Minister. Mistake there from citizen journalist Chris Kunzler, because this is actually then Defense Minister being advised on how to do it. But LBC and liberal media have been out in force today trying to do this, to point out that Jeffrey Epstein was actually a Russian spy. Now, Epstein actually has some discussions of this, such as this point where we see... Hold on. We see this message from from the mind that is Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, right. So Jeffrey Epstein said of Robert Maxwell, Robert Maxwell threatened Mossad. He told them that unless they give him $400 million to save his crumbling empire, he would expose all that he had done for them. In that time, he had free access to Margaret Thatcher's Downing Street, to Ronald Reagan's White House, to the Kremlin, and to the corridors of power throughout Europe. Maxwell passed on all secrets he learned to Mossad in Tel Aviv. In turn, they tolerated his excesses, vanities, and insatiable appetite for a luxurious lifestyle and women. He told his controllers who they should target and how they should do it. He appointed himself as Israel's unofficial ambassador to the Soviet bloc. Now, I don't know, bro, because this is Epstein's read of Maxwell, and Maxwell and Epstein were friends. What I am seeing here is something quite interesting, because this kind of looks like the role that Epstein went on to play. And yeah, he may have been Qatari oil funded. Like, that Epstein operated in this grey space, and actually, seemingly, him and his best friend, Ehud Barak, worked as unofficial Israeli ambassadors to a multitude of different countries. By the way, before any of this Epstein stuff emerged at all, I had a lecturer tell me, prior to, before the Abraham Accords were formalized, there are a huge amount of security deals between the UAE and Israel, and there are Israeli spies operating in the UAE, and this was completely known, but it was never made fully official. And so I think Epstein actually may be speaking from a bit of experience about what he did, but instead there has apparently been a concerted effort to portray this guy as exclusively a Soviet-Russian spy. This one has a little more balance, but yeah.
Did the name Epstein ever cross your desk?
Depends whether you mean my desk in government or my desk in private.
So this is a former MI6 guy. By the way, apparently former MI6 guys were working with Epstein on Libya. We read that earlier.
Business since 2009.
Let's go with government first.
That's the one I can't talk about, but certainly in private business it did, and it was linked very strongly with Russia.
In what way?
It's also noted here, by the way, this is Borzu Daragi said, after the death of Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, media outlets were used to launder the truth by claiming he was a Soviet spy, even though he was obviously an Israeli intel asset. The services are now using the Murdoch media to run the same play with Epstein, claiming that the Israeli operative was working for Russia. Perhaps Epstein worked for both, but more evidence points to Israel. This is the point which I would also stick on, and I know sometimes I'm a bit of a contrarian and I'll say, well, there's merit to both. I don't doubt Epstein was linking up with Russians. Him and this is discussed in the drop site thing, but when I look at the drop site stuff, he can't get meetings with Putin. He has to lobby through multiple different people to get there, particularly, as is mentioned in drop site news, Victor Vekselberg. Look, the key to Barak's back-channel diplomacy with Russia was his relationship with Viktor Vekselberg, a Russian-Israeli oligarch and owner of the multinational conglomerate Renova Group. Barak offered his services as a strategic consultant to Renova, a position that would generate a lucrative salary for himself and further his ambitions in global mining and energy sectors, while enhancing his access to powerful figures. So Barak kept Epstein abreast of every update on his courtship of Vekselberg. Now, if Epstein was entirely an a Russian asset, as many of these people seem to claim, that his link was stronger with Russia, I find it really hard to kind of see why they couldn't get meetings. And this is just an example of 1992. A British newspaper said Sunday that media tycoon Robert Maxwell was a high-level agent for the Soviet leadership. A Foreign Office suspected Maxwell was a Russian agent. He literally got a state funeral in Israel, didn't he?
In the sense that the whole Epstein files as they're coming out are showing the extent of connections between Epstein and Russia. And I would argue this goes right back to the 1970s. My sources in America tell me that the American government, the American intelligence services assessment.
What's interesting as well, I find of this narrative, is no one I see backing this up relies heavily on documentation from the Epstein files. Whereas with Israel, people have found some pretty crazy shit, and they also have Barak's emails to corroborate it.
Was that Epstein was recruited as early as the 1970s by Russian organised crime figures in New York, and that his information was being used, his operational techniques were being used from that point onwards. So this scandal, this case, if you like, goes back decades.
So your information is that Epstein was indeed recruited to act on behalf of Russian mobsters or the Russian state?
Well, of course, the two are interlinked. Initially in New York, obviously, offshore, it's Russian mobsters, but Russian mobsters were always umbilically linked to the Russian intelligence services. And that relationship actually has got a lot closer over time. One of the things Putin did when he came to office was effectively took over the FSB, the security service in Russia, took over organised crime as part of Putin's consolidation of state power in his hands. So this is one side or two sides of the same coin, basically.
Was this endeavour by Epstein and to an extent Maxwell done in order to gain compromat on senior figures within the British hierarchy, whether that's a senior government minister in Mandelson or a prince?
I believe this started, for what you're referring to, the Maxwell-Epstein relationship. I'm not sure. I would refer to Robert Maxwell as the key figure here in the past, not Ghislaine. I think Ghislaine met Epstein through Robert Maxwell. But I think Epstein was in business with Robert Maxwell in the late 1980s. And what they were doing at the time, ostensibly, was Maxwell was getting Jewish people, Soviet Jews, out of Russia into Israel. My sources tell me, both in America and independently, that the other side of that, the quid pro quo for it.
I like how this guy just keeps saying, my sources, my sources, my sources. Okay, bro, show us your sources. Bro's pulling the Candice strategy. Sources tell me that Charlie was alive and was actually killed from a tunnel.
Was that they were laundering Soviet Communist Party hard currency into the West, and that Epstein was clearly recruited as part of that operation.
That's where Epstein, you say, got the money from to pay the flights, accommodation, transportation of Russian, potentially Russian young women.
Yes, what is quite curious is that my American contacts tell me that...
If this guy says American contacts, bro, it's Isaac all over again with this Kurt Vonnegut.
Despite the fact that Epstein was incredibly rich and influential and omnipresent, if you like, in American high society, is he didn't actually do many big banking or financial deals. So the implication of that is that the money was coming from somewhere else, and I believe it was coming from the Soviet Union initially and then Russia.
Do you suspect, to what extent do you know, that included within Epstein's files, including on his computer somewhere, is severely damaging, incredibly embarrassing behaviour by the current president of the United States?
So we'll listen to this. Jeffrey was a CIA company man. Look up Donald and William Barr, the latter who tried to keep him from being prosecuted. It wouldn't surprise me he was rubbing shoulders with all these people. I don't think you can operate as an intelligence asset for another country in America for as long as Epstein did, and with such a wide reach and such an insane method of communicating just through fucking emails without brushing up against these people. So yeah, I think it's I am of the belief that is most likely true, that there were many people who had shared interests in protecting him. Thanks again, Thomas, for the incredibly kind donation and making this possible.
I think it's quite likely, although I suspect that...
Yeah, you have to listen to LBC is fucking dog shit, by the way.
Some of these files have been destroyed. One of the interesting aspects of this is that if the American security services knew that this was initially a Russian operation and was a continuing Russian operation over the years, why did they let it run so long? I find that mysterious. I think other intelligence services were also involved, the Israelis almost certainly.
In what way?
Well, in the sense that if you like, the modus
Bro's spoken out of turn on LBC. Do not mention the Israeli involvement.
operandi, the value of the compromat that was being gathered must have been so great that it was attractive to more than just the Russian intelligence services.
The Polish government say that they are investigating any links between Epstein and the Russian intelligence services. Prime Minister Tusk saying more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented paedophilia scandal.
It's also kind of crazy that, you know, we've had huge amounts of reporting for months, by the way, from like organizations like Dropsite about his relationship with people like Ehud Barak, but, you know, we didn't need any mention of that. No.
Was co-organised by Russian intelligence services. Do you think the British government needs to do that, or, if we're honest, Christopher, have already done that investigation?
Well, I left government in 2009, so I can't say for sure. I think the Polish position has to be taken very seriously. Poland is a very good, if you like, assessor of Russia's intentions and Russia's operations. And if the Polish government and the Polish intelligence services think that the Russians were behind this, then I think we need to investigate that as well here, because they are good allies and they are reliable allies and they understand Russia as well as anybody.
Why, in theory, would an intelligence service allow this, let's say it is Russian-backed compromat creating web, to continue?
Well, obviously the Russians would want it to continue because they were gaining value from it.
Yes, but why would the British security services or the Americans?
Because everyone was in the damn files.
American security services baffle me because, as I say, the other thing that baffles me is the fact that clearly the Department of Justice in America had this material at its disposal for the last several years on Epstein. They don't seem to have shared that with British security services when the Mandelson appointment came up. And given that Mandelson was actually going to be ambassador to the US and would, in that role, also have access to sensitive US information, I find it baffling that that wasn't the case.
Do you think...
Are people buying this? At least this guy mentioned Mossad, but just honestly, I like, it's all reliant on someone who's a former British government agent going, my sources tell me. When, like, okay, we can pull up here. Mandelson offered to help Epstein get Russian visa. I don't know why Jeffrey Epstein would have had to have gone to someone like Peter Mandelson as a means to get a Russian visa. I don't know why. I don't know why that would be a thing. If that was, you know, if he was a Russian intelligence asset. I don't think getting a fucking visa to go traffic girls was something that would need to be done. And so I've had a few comments. So someone made a joke here that's just like evidence. And someone said, given the media tried to no, here we go. Because they think... No, that's not it. To maintain the pretense he wasn't a Russian spy. This is one of his Russian visas. He is going to here on the visa is the FSB headquarters of Veterans and Counterterrorism. He will have had links with multiple intelligence agencies, Robert Maxwell, and was also probably a Soviet and Mossad spy. Now, I don't think that's impossible. Don't think that's impossible. Don't think that there's no truth at all to any of this kind of stuff. However, simultaneously, what I will say is I am still much more convinced by the links that I have seen with Israel. I find them harder, and I find it particularly notable that this stuff will not be repeated and that this stuff has been ignored for months now, and the second there is an opportunity to blame Russia, it's instantaneous.
To what extent do you think it is true that the Prime Minister would not have known about the extent of the relationship between Mandelson and Epstein?
I wouldn't like to comment on that. I can't because I haven't been in the system. I think that clearly it was known that Mandelson had a relationship with Epstein for many years. And in my view, that should have been enough to prevent him getting that particular job, which is a highly sensitive ambassadorial job.
And yet here is a potential Russian asset being invited to...
I like how it's just repeat Russian asset. But these are, by the way, British media has gone wild with this one. DW News, was he a Russian asset? Epstein was effectively involved in Russian organized crime.
It is utterly
Poland
ridiculous.
to probe possible link. Was Epstein spying for Putin? Putin, Epstein, the connection nobody explains. Epstein, Russian spy allegations. It's got the Kremlin all over it. Ed Davey, Poland to probe. Step down, Zach Polanski. Trump tries to bury Epstein scandal. Okay, now we're off this. But yeah, huge British media sway on this. And it's not just in video form. Epstein, Russia, hold on. Just look at the actual fucking news. Everything is Russia-based. Kremlin denies Epstein was a Russia spy. Kremlin dismisses Western claims that Epstein was an intelligence agent. Epstein files ex-Israeli to send 1 million Russians to dilute Palestinian presence. Middle East eye, so some decent reporting there. There's just huge amounts of this stuff. Like Epstein's links to Putin and photos of him in Russian hat. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Posted an article on Donald Bar Connection via Dalton on Discord. I'll check it out tomorrow. How? Welcome back, Red Scare. It's just like, get this guy, and this is the thing. I think if this was much more concrete, I'd get more out of the files and people being like, okay, yeah, this is what he is. I'm not denying that there's any plausibility, and I don't think we should. But I also think that the hyperfixation on this, in the same way that, like, how we saw the Iran death toll reported, like, instantaneously, 30,000 dead in Iran. Every outlet reported this and wasn't like, oh, you know, this is highly shady. This is the Iran opposition who has a goal of inflating this. And even though there's truth to a lot of people being killed, it's interesting how instantaneously this is accepted versus how long it has taken for there to be any look into his Mossad links. Like, yeah. I bet if I Google Epstein Mossad, we will not return. Yeah, okay, we get Double Down News, fucking Loki talking about it. The Young Turks. Do you notice the difference here? That these are like Propaganda and Co. By the way, I need to start making fucking videos like this, straight to camera. Maybe I'm going to start doing that. Wally Rashid. Wally Rashid's popping off. Then you have all these people, but like you don't see mainstream media doing the same thing. You see exclusively reporting that, you know, Epstein was a KGB agent in a honey trap operation. Also, Sulayem has been sending him reports from Haaretz. I don't know why. Oh, fuck. I've done it again. It doesn't matter. You saw it the other day. Fuck. That keeps happening. It's happened again. Oh, you didn't see anything. That's goated. Goated this time. Goated. It doesn't matter which system they live off. They're doing the same gruesome stuff. All this left and right was just a cover-up. Well, no, left and right does exist. Left and right stuff does exist. But I think in this topic, for the elite, you're right, it doesn't exist. Not Mossad. Hold on, I want to find this Not Mossad. By the way, quickly, we can watch, as like a filler, you know, we can watch this quickly. Footage inside Ghislaine Maxwell's prison cell released in Epstein files. Imagine going from such wealth and opulence and ability to just fly the world and hang out with whatever powerful people you want and just doing this, rotting in this grotesque little cell. By the way, this should be the fate of all of them, not just Ghislaine. And yeah, on the topic of it being a plutocracy, I guess, like, in the context of Russia as well, I find it really hard to believe, like, that he was, #1 Russian asset when he was having to get visas off Mandelson, when getting a meeting with Putin, organised with Ehud Barak, by the way, took a considerable amount of time. Like, it wasn't something that they could just do. And apparently he's been operating for Russia, running the most high-profile blackmail ring, according to that guy's sources. But yeah, I don't know. Like, this message is one of the most convincing as well. Okay, so it starts off with... hold on, I'm gonna just download this real quick, because this is being made into a video. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. Oh my god, why won't it let me zoom out? Annoying. Oh, my back's itchy. I'm struggling. Okay, this is it. Hi, Jeff. Are you going to be in London on Thursday? Best, EB. Unfortunately not. You should make it clear that I don't work for Mossad. You or I. That I don't. This is Epstein talking to Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Like, about being Mossad, you know? I don't know. I find it pretty hard to just buy up that this stuff is not a deception operation by Western media pushing the notion that he is Russian because of the explicit goal of basically seeking to obfuscate the clear relationship that he had with much more powerful Israeli figures, and the fact that it can be proved, hey, Epstein brokered X, Y, and Z deal, whereas when it comes to Israel, they don't report it, and in Russia it's instantaneous. Like, here's the one straight from the files as well of Robert Maxwell threatened Mossad, which we've mentioned. I'm just quickly looking through this, and like Bowie says he got the Mossad guys through you. Who is Bowie's? David Bowie's, who's the... Like, if these guys are just giving out Mossad guys to billionaires and lawyers, I don't know, man. I don't know. And we also saw that internal thing that's talking about him being compromised and all of this stuff. For me, it's really hard to sit here and just be like, yeah, this is totally a normal thing to do, to just be like, yep, exclusively a Russian asset. He may have brushed shoulders with the Israelis, but yeah. It's, I don't know. For me, it's kind of... Like, once again, Epstein talking to Barak. Did Bowie's ask you to help obtain former Mossad agents to do dirty investigations? This is getting a lot of press. I don't know. It's... And they even kind of, like, joke about this. They even just, like... joke about this. Call me in Paris. Ehud Barak's like, call me in Paris when it's talking about this stuff. He notes here how, like, this is for an off-topic, and there's just Ehud Barak's fucking phone number, which is crazy, and it's in the files. I'm not leaking anything. Just look at this. To Ehud Barak, Jeffrey Epstein, you can find so much in here. 1 comma per sentence is already enough. 2, 3, 4 we call run-on sentences. Still, even I had to accept it was not fun to fly on. This is not English. Still, I had to admit that flying on it was no fun. Sentences cannot be ended in fly... What is this? Yet these 3 dedicated men, Gilly was by training a lawyer, Shlomo an academic, and Danny, a former Mossad chief, had just been through dozens of hours of intricately organized talks with each of Arafat's top negotiators. I don't know, man. I wonder if there's anything about Camp David in here. I wish also that, like... I really just wish that also... So I just want to show you Epstein's email inbox. Okay, so I want to find out about Camp David. Oh, okay, here's something about Camp David. For some reason, they have pumped in stuff from the office of Terjerod Larson that's just a straight out, sent out email from them, like a big one. You know, it's like... It's just insane. Here's just him talking about Donald Trump doing a financial scam, basically. Yeah, I've allegedly doxed poor Ehud Barak. I sincerely apologize to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak for posting his number that was freely available in the Epstein files, which I could easily search and find, but I am responsible for doing awful, awful, awful things, and I apologize. But this Epstein-Russia stuff really just has not ended. And notice that a lot of these outlets doing it are massively pro-Israel outlets, like the Times. Let's watch one more of these. And then
the photographs and the records, the young Russian women putting people in compromising positions. It's got the Kremlin written over it.
Let's say good evening to...
This is Ed Davey, the head of the Liberal Democrats. God, finding these compromising photos... It's got the Kremlin written all over it. Russian people are predisposed, and they have this unique ability, according to Westerners, to understand the concept of blackmail.
So Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems. Hello to you, Ed.
Hi, John.
Welcome. You've been around the block a few times, Ed. I mean, is it your sense that we may be, with this Mandelson scandal and Keir Starmer's handling of it, at some sort of tipping point, some sort of turning point? Is that your feeling?
It's very febrile in the Commons tonight. Labour MPs are exceedingly angry with the Prime Minister, and rightly so. When I asked him at Prime Minister's Questions earlier today, did he think at all about Epstein's victims?
He almost got... You know, Jeremy Corbyn got accused of being an anti-Semite for calling Epstein one time.
When he made Mandelson ambassador to the United States, he hadn't got an answer. So I think that puts the Prime Minister in an extraordinarily difficult position.
Like, the Telegraph literally have like a full YouTube video about him mispronouncing Epstein's name.
Is Andrew fit for purpose?
Before we discuss Prince Andrew, I think we should discuss the victims that are there because of what Epstein was doing. And I think there are very, very serious questions that must be answered, and nobody should be above the law, but the primary position ought to be the proper treatment of those people who are victims of the most appalling behaviour by apparently Epstein and many others.
Thank you.
He kept doing it. Bro, was Jeremy Corbyn anti-Semitic towards Jeffrey Epstein? Find out more.
And I am not surprised that Labour MPs are rebelling tonight and are forcing the Prime Minister on the back foot.
I mean, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, hasn't he generally been spoken of as a man of some integrity and basic decency? Do you think that Keir Starmer would wish to be part of a cover-up?
Okay, I'm gonna skip to the Russia stuff because I don't wanna listen to all of this.
First one, I raised the point that there's a lot of talk now, a lot of chatter that Epstein may have been spying for Vladimir Putin.
You raised the subject, which was raised yesterday by the Prime Minister of Poland, the possibility that Epstein was working in cahoots with Russia, with the KGB, as the intelligence service of Russia was formerly called, in setting up these so-called honey trap, as he described them. And you're saying that is serious enough to warrant close investigation by the British government and intelligence service too?
100%. I mean, that's why I raised it. The Prime Minister, he had no answer, but I'm going to keep pursuing it. When Prime Minister Donald Tusk shows his concern, when a lot of the behaviour of Epstein, when you look at it, looks like it's come out of the Kremlin playbook, frankly.
Once again, only the Kremlin is capable of coming up with the concept and utilizing the concept of blackmail. Famously, no one has ever done that. Boris Johnson. By the way, Boris Johnson, in his book, literally suggested that Netanyahu put a bug in his bathroom. But remember, only Russians can do this. And Donald Tusk is the guy we should be trusting on this.
The photographs and the records, the young Russian women putting people in compromising positions, it's got the Kremlin written over it. And now, the files that we've seen so far, they do lots of mentions of Vladimir Putin, lots of references to Moscow. Whether it confirms that Epstein was a Russian spy, I don't know yet, but we must get to the bottom of that. I mean, this was an evil man who was in life for himself and has behaved in the most appalling ways. And if it meant that Peter Mandelson, when he was the Deputy Prime Minister, was leaking state secrets.
Oh, the noise on this is atrocious. Oh, no more out of that. No more out of that. I can't even listen to that. Oh. I wonder if there is actually much about Netanyahu in here, because Epstein may not have liked him. Borders of Israel. There was a mention of a map of Israel. But yeah, I don't know. I think that what everyone should bear in mind about this story and what everyone should concentrate on is the fact, okay, that British media is unequivocally working and unstoppably pushing out this propaganda that exclusively Jeffrey Epstein was a Russian asset, while simultaneously totally ignoring Epstein's connections with Israel. That is a specific choice. That is not to that is done not to scare people about our relationship with Israel, and then also not to, hold it to account in any way, because it's very obvious that the two of them had links, right? But it remains to be seen. And more is going to emerge, I am sure. Okay. I don't know whether to call it there, because it's getting late, but... you know what? I'm going to call it there, because I'm just going to have this as another Epstein-focused stream. Epstein and so much more. I'm going to just have it as that, and I'm sorry I'm bad at covering the title stuff. I hope that doesn't wind you all too up too much. Call it there. Because it sometimes just ends up being this thing where, we focus on one thing. I'm incredibly grateful for you all having been here and watched and having supported and donated and been so kind. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the evening, and I'm going to see you all tomorrow, because I'm going to be live then for probably, unless there's something more coming out about, unless there's something more about Epstein. We've kind of covered a lot. But thank you all for coming. Thank you all for supporting. See you guys later, and have a lovely rest of the day.